We'll resume the meeting now for the evening of November 10th. And where we left off was the staff presentation. So we'll go right to public comment. Before we do that, I guess we should be taking roll to ensure we've got a quorum. Tony?
Jimenez,
Present.
Perales, Dieppe,
Here.
got it. Dieppe,
Present.
Crosco,
Present.
Davis,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Arenas, Foley,
Here.
Camus,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Liccardo.
Present. Thank you. Thank you, Tony. All right, we'll go to public comment. This is public comment on items 8.5 and 8.6, the Measure E Real Property Transfer Tax Spending Plan and the Affordable Housing Investment Plans. Tessa Woodmansee?
Thank you. Yes, affordable housing. Well, in my neighborhood, at 615 Stockton Avenue at Shealy, the homeowner developer tried to get affordable housing, but it was denied by our city because, like I said to you, it was that we live across on the east side of Stockton Avenue is heavy industry, and it's Royal Coach Tours, our bus depot with the diesel, which is a toxic air contaminant, a cancer causing. And, you know, even though our home, we were rezoned residential in 2005, and it never was brought to our attention as I've seen my neighbors drop from death and cancer and myself with autoimmune diseases. And, you know, nobody brought that to my attention. However, now they're saying you can't build here. And before that, they wanted a school in this location. And they said, no, these are what they call sensitive receptors. I can't have that. So we couldn't have a school in this neighborhood either, but we're living here and we need to make changes in our neighborhoods so that we could have housing in this most wonderful place to live where we are resource rich and we are by transit. And that's what the state has required, is trying to require, and everybody's fighting it. The state has said you need to build by transit. And the city is saying, no, we want to hold on to our commercial land so we can make more money. And these are really moral and ethical issues as we are facing our housing crisis. And don't forget, it's a crisis. And that's why we have to throw everything at it. And that's all we should be thinking about is our housing crisis, not jobs. The jobs are, first of all, they are state, like the woman who said it, another neighbor said, that we are working from our home and we have to start living like plants, like Allery Middlebrook says, like plants, where all our needs are met in the same location. That's our housing, our work, and our food. And so Google needs to be required to.
Thank you. Ray Bramson?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Ray Bramson, Chief Operating Officer with Destination Home. On behalf of Destination Home, I'm speaking tonight in strong support of both the updated Affordable Housing Investment Plan and the Measure E Spending Plan. The spending priorities outlined in these plans are strongly aligned with the strategies in the new 2025 Community Plan to End Homelessness that this council approved and will be critical to helping our most vulnerable and at-risk residents in the years ahead. In particular, the Measure E Spending Plan this year alone will provide over 650 households, working families, survivors of domestic violence, adults in need of support from losing their homes. It'll also provide subsidies for hundreds of deeply affordable and supportive housing programs. We believe this is critical. And while we understand that Measure E, as approved by the voters, was a general sales tax and entirely flexible for the needs of the city and the community, we also feel like the spending plan and the goals that it set in December 2019 that was fully supported by this council are critical to continue to support now in the future. It was the spending plan that we used as a community to rally support, bring in donors, and help get it over the goal line. And we hope that we can continue to work with the city in the years ahead. We're grateful for your support. We need to strongly support the plan that is outlined here today and support housing in going forward with these critical initiatives for our most vulnerable residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Jewel Buchanan?
Okay, thank you very much. This is Jewel Buchanan. I live in zip code 95116. I'm a member of Aruba, which is the Alum Rock Urban, excuse me, Urban Corridor Organization. And what I'd like to say is has to do with affordable housing development within 95116. And essentially with what's going on, we need to just connect the dots. City of San Jose has a very, very low commercial linkage fee. With that, developers are swarming into District 5 with little or no consideration for affordable housing. Carl and Swinson, who is a longtime developer in the city of San Jose, is leveraging building the types of buildings and condos that they want along Alum Rock Corridor. Affordable housing is very much needed in the city of San Jose. It should be spread throughout the city of San Jose, not just in 95116. That to me looks like a modern form of redlining. In the city of San Jose, it's interesting that the city of San Jose has been part of this policy that began in the 1930s. We need to stop that. We need to make affordable housing available throughout every district in San Jose, not just District 5. Thank you all very much. Take that into consideration, sleep on it, and understand the effects of what happens when we don't put affordable housing throughout the city of San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you. Jaime Alvarado, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Actually, my comments were for 8.8.
Oh, okay, great. We'll take you up then. Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you for this item. You know, there was a really good CED meeting on October 26th, I think it was, Monday, a few weeks ago. They really nicely described what they want to set out for with housing goals and plans, affordable housing goals and plans for the next year. I don't know if that item will still be coming up, but I thought I'd mention it now that I was hoping they could, you know, develop that presentation from that meeting. It was really good. It really described what we can begin to expect next year. So thank you for that. I hope to hear more of that coming up. You know my feelings, hopefully by now, about mixed income ideas. And, you know, CASA, you know, the Housing Advocacy Agency, they were doing some really good work over the past years. And in fact, in the one of the October 26 CED memos, you have the CASA report from 2019 that I recommend you look through, people look through. And, you know, CASA's really, they've been on top of these things. And like, you know, you can hear people like Councilperson Esparza and others, they're ready to start up, you know, really good ideas at the local level of housing. Redwood City, Fremont, they're working ideas of affordable housing that address the ideas of equity. So, you know, at the local level, people are really raring to go. Really listen to the community when you hear community voices. That can help a lot at this time. And I just think we're ready to address really important new ideas and how do we, you know, garden that and garner it and build it and make it happen. That's what I'm into right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Reed, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Matthew Reed from Silicon Valley at home. I want to speak directly to the Measure E item. And really, I know I do this periodically, but really express my gratitude for the leadership that this council and some of you in particular, and the mayor and others invested in this effort. And it is heartening to see this coming to fruition and recognize the tremendous value that it's going to add to the city's ability to produce this much needed housing. So thank you. I think it's very important that we keep the faith with the voters at the same time and carefully recognize the energy that went into crafting the expenditure plan that council also passed. This is a critical long-term resource for the city. And I, for those of you close to it, you know, but I just like to reiterate that there was some cynicism in the process that this money may morph and change and shift in direction over time. And I think it's your body's responsibility to have careful stewardship over these resources, and that's going to be critical towards its sustainability. So we support the staff's approach and recommendations and appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Perla Flores?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here today. And I work for a nonprofit, Community Solutions, and overseeing services for domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking survivors. And I'm also a member of the Domestic Violence Advocacy Consortium, which is a group comprised of the 5 domestic violence service providers here in the county. And calling in just to support the development of affordable housing, and particularly the set aside for domestic violence survivors. As I mentioned, I work with the Domestic Violence Advocacy Consortium, and in any given year, the 4 organizations that provide emergency shelter to domestic violence survivors serve about 750 women and children and provide approximately 22,000 bed nights per year. The piece that's really heartbreaking is that, unfortunately, of all those individuals served in any given year, only 26% are able to obtain permanent or transitional housing. I had the privilege also of serving on the Santa Clara County CDOT task force, and there's a housing report that's going to be coming out pretty soon that I would love to for individuals to read and have more information around how gender-based violence impacts homelessness. There's a homelessness and gender report that came out in Santa Clara County a few years ago that states that 41% of homeless women and 41% of the cases of women that are homeless, violence was the cause of that homelessness. So I thank the city of San Jose for putting this forward, and hopefully we can work together towards providing safe housing for the most vulnerable in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Buchanan. Jeffrey?
Sorry about that, a little technical difficulty. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would, on behalf of Working Partnerships, would like to encourage you when it comes to item 8.5, echo the comments from Matthew and from Ray. You know, there was a lot of thoughtfulness and collaboration that went into crafting the allocation plan for Measure E. And I think that was part of the excitement that led to such a wide coalition of supporters for that measure. Would really encourage the council to support the staff recommendations, you know, particularly in light of what will be, I think we all can agree, an even greater need than we'll be able to finance when it comes to homeless prevention, particularly next year as AB 3088, the statewide eviction protections run out, and many tenants in San Jose will be faced with having to repay a portion of their back rent. And so, you know, having every available resource for that homeless prevention program is going to be really critical, particularly given the uncertainty of any kind of large-scale rent relief emerging from Washington. I hope that things do emerge on that front, but I don't think we can necessarily depend on Washington saving us in this moment. So we just really encourage you to support the staff recommendation, and also to support the recommendation from Councilmember Reyes. I think it echoes the council direction around the allocation and the specific concerns around making sure that we're protecting our survivors of domestic violence, particularly in this time when we know that that's a growing challenge amid sheltered place in the pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The person with the phone number ending 5140.
Yeah, I'd like to know, I mean, how many sales tax increases are we going to have before it gets to 10% or over to be able to fund all these programs for poor people? And now I guess middle income people, you know, once you get to over 10% of a tax on something, it's usury. And there was a caller a couple hours ago who called me a racist. I can't believe you guys let that happen, because you're not supposed to do that according to your rules. And you're not supposed to name call people who've called in. You let that happen. And how does she know I'm not a Latino? I'm sure she's a white liberal with a big hook nose and tiny glasses, with a bad haircut, with her phony NPR voice.
Sir, the discussion is entirely on items 8.5.
Yeah,
8.6.
I know. I know. I just said something about it, didn't I? How
Yeah,
I want you
just read
guys
it.
can't answer the question. You guys can't answer the question, can you?
Tessa Whitmansey?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, well, here we are with affordable housing issues. And I guess that's something to really think about, was the issue of environmental racism in terms of where we're putting our affordable housing. Oftentimes it is by highways and things like that. And, you know, our neighborhood is a, they call it, well, it's part of the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, explains that we are a community at risk. We're a community at risk. And all of the developments that's happening with the Google development, and also like I said, in our neighborhood where we're across from diesel emissions, and we have very high diesel emissions, that we need to start making changes about how we're developing our community. And so we need to create places that are healthy for people to live. So we need to move the bus depots out of our neighborhoods where the residents, instead of saying, oh, residents can't live here, we need to change this neighborhood where the east side of Stockton Avenue is all housing. And, you know, that's what's beautiful, is that Caltrain is going to be
Listen, I think
electrified.
You've spoken already, haven't you?
Oh, I guess I did. So fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Tessa. Catherine Hedges?
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo, the council, and the housing department. Overall, I agree with the speakers who say this is a very good plan. I also agree with, I believe it was Jill Buchanan, who said that affordable housing needs to be distributed equally throughout the city. And one of the reasons for that is that families with children need to be able to attend good school districts instead of having all the lower income children segregated into neighborhoods that don't have enough resources for good schools. I mean, ideally, all the schools would be equally good, but realistically, that won't be happening soon. And also, I hope that future permanent supportive housing development will not all be crammed into District 3, because that's also segregating, saying that they have to live where the greatest homeless populations were. That actually makes it more difficult for people in permanent supportive housing to turn their lives around, because, you know, they're constantly being exposed to, you know, the old life. And but overall, I'm very glad to see that San Jose is looking, you know, overall with an equity lens. They're starting to look at things with an equity lens. They have the anti-displacement policy, and I hope that we can, you know, have good projects. And I'm very happy to see Catalyze SV, of which I am a member, pushing the developers to make projects better than the minimum and good for the community. And thanks very much to Al.
Oh, I think we just lost you. Possible. No. She's okay. All right. Jaime Alvarado, you have your hand raised. Did you want to speak on this item?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I was listening to comments, and I'd be Jaime Alvarado, resident of District 5. I'd be remiss if I didn't add a quick comment, and that's that one of my jobs is I facilitate a support group for male victims of domestic violence, and that's for both heterosexual and homosexual men. And so I just want to call out that very often that what's overlooked is the fact that men too can be victims of domestic violence. And if you all are able to invest any of your dollars into creating more what do you call that, shelter space for men, believe me, unfortunately there's a very large need. It happens maybe not as much as women being victims of violence, domestic violence, but it happens quite regularly, and most of the time we never hear about that. And I just want to call your attention to that fact. And certainly, whether it's what do you call it, supportive or shelter housing for victims of domestic violence, whether that be men or women, there's certainly not enough of those. But in particular, I wanted to just inform you to keep your your mind open to learning more about the fact that men are victimized by domestic violence as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaime. All right, we'll return to the council now. And thank staff for all their hard work and preparation for today, as more importantly, all the work they've been doing for quite some time. Obviously, it's taken us a long time just to get to the point where we can say we're actually assembling funding sources that can put us on the path. We obviously have a lot more work to do, and it's still very much uphill. But I'm very appreciative of all the work that's gone into this, in just the last year, with Measure E and the impact fee, commercial impact work that's been done on inclusionary and so forth. That's opening more doors for more of our families. I know there are two memoranda that were submitted today. I appreciate Councilmember Rannis's memorandum, which I think provides staff sufficient flexibility at the same time that encourages them to be dedicating resources to survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, and I certainly support that. I also submitted a memorandum. I'd just like to explain, because I know this was submitted a bit belatedly, and there's been some concern, and I want to at least front that and appreciate that the concerns coming from a lot of folks that worked very hard on Measure E with me, and we all work together on this, and obviously nobody wants to see any of that effort or commitment wasted with any diversion of dollars that should serve our neediest residents. So the memorandum I submitted has just a few key parts. One is a request to agendize a memo that was drafted by several of us, and it was originally on the March 17th council agenda, which of course we vacated because the pandemic hit and we stopped work on a lot of things, and we'd like to get that re-agendized. The second item relates to the bridge housing on Mayberry Road. It's apparent that there are some legal obstacles out there that we need to find a way to get through in order to better utilize the work that's been done out there to get more people housed. And so I just want to make sure we're all really clear about what that is so we can push together on it and hopefully get some help in Sacramento as well. The third item, I'll come back to the third and fourth items. The fifth paragraph just has to do with partnership that we're building. We've had recent conversations with San Francisco Foundation. They're interested in funding consultants that could help us with financing. And I just would like to be able to have the housing department engage with them so that we can together figure out a way to put together an ADU program that can really serve some of our residents who really need rent restricted housing. Actually, so many of our residents who need it. There's no question that ADUs are now becoming a larger and larger share of our new housing production. I suppose part of that is a result of the very unfortunate reality that the pandemic hurt. We really lost a lot of momentum in terms of housing production. But we've also got an enormous amount of forward momentum in getting ADU production going, and I appreciate all staff's hard work on that. Particularly in PBCE as well, doing a lot of work around permitting. But now it's more than a third of our units, I think, this year are ADUs. And so we now have to recognize this is an important pillar of our strategy, and it's something we probably need to invest some time into helping see if we continue to expand financing opportunities for a lot of homeowners who are going to be pretty cash strapped, given all that we're going through. So let me just address, I think, what will be the more controversial concerns, which relates to San Jose Bridge program. that's referred to in paragraph 3 and 4. And I should say paragraph 4, it appears we've done some more work, and it appears that the funding allocation that came from the general fund is in place. And so there's no question that that $500,000 at least, based on a June memorandum from the city manager's team, ensures that program will continue. But let me first just describe the program for those who may not be familiar. We started this really as a pilot about a year and a half ago, with a little more than 50 homeless individuals. And in partnership with Goodwill and Downtown Streets team, to try to provide a work-focused approach to help folks get back on their feet. And the participants were primarily involved in cleaning the city in various ways. And I think they work typically a half day. There's a lot of other programming going on that the participants are involved in regarding job readiness programs, resume building, interviewing, lots of other things. All of the residents were ELI or homeless. I believe all were homeless, if I'm not mistaken. And what we saw in just that first year or so was about a third of the participants, the homeless participants, got stably housed. 18 of them also found other work, either part-time or full-time, which is obviously the goal, is to see how we can provide a path to greater self-sufficiency. Program participants reflect the reality of the demographics of many of our ELI residents, 63% Latinx. The majority were also enrolled in social services programs through the county nonprofits. What I think we have is the seed of what could be a very successful program, and I would like to see us continue it. I think there's a real opportunity here because it is both providing a path for those who are work able, and we know that's only a fraction of our homeless. This is not a comprehensive solution. It's just for those who are work able. And because I think it's critically important to show our residents that when they are taxed and we're using those dollars to spend to support homeless residents, that those are residents who want to be part of the solution. They're not just people that are pointed at as being the problem, which is all too often the case, as we hear too much. Whenever there's a conversation about encampments and trash and all the other issues that people bring to us on a daily basis. And clearly, homeless residents who want to be part of the solution should be given that path. And so it was important for me that we ensure that there's a flexibility in funding sources so that we can sustain this program if we need to. And we don't know what's going to happen in the general fund over the next year or two. We all know, we all hope that the deployment of vaccines will be rapid, but the truth is we know we're in tough times for a while economically. And so we just don't know enough to know that the general fund is going to continue to be that reliable source. This Measure E was passed, obviously, with a focus on homelessness. Our funding strategy is 45% ELI, 10% to help with homelessness prevention. And it seems to me that this is a program that provides a pathway to housing for a lot of residents at a very cost-effective level. In the case of what we're spending now, about $10,000 of public money a person, that's very cost-effective. And so I would hate to think, and the reason why the paragraph 3 is in there is because of a single line that was in a chart in the staff memorandum that said, and I'll just quote it, said that after further review, it's determined Measure E is not an eligible source for this program as it focuses on employment rather than housing. So, we took a quick dive on this, and as we understood it, there's no legal barrier here to using Measure E funding for this purpose. The question is really a policy question for the council, and to some extent a definitional one, how we define the categories that we've created. And certainly those categories can change with a supermajority vote of the council and 2 public hearings. But it seems to me that this is a program that's entirely consistent with the public will. I know I can tell you every time I've talked about this program on social media or in public, this is one that is very warmly received by the public because they are grateful to see that there's a program that also delivers a real benefit to the public and really puts the homeless in a position of people who are really part of a community that's working together. And I think that is a positive thing. And so I wanted to ensure that that sentence does not preclude us from being able to use Measure E funds in the future should we need to. And so it was that sentence I was concerned about, and that's why I asked for a reassessment of the eligibility. And I explained some reasons why in the memorandum in the base. But fundamentally, it appears to me, and certainly, you know, if someone has contrary information, I'm certainly interested in hearing it, but there is certainly no legal basis why we cannot use Measure E funds for this purpose. I think the council should have that option available to it. Obviously, it'll be subject to a decision that we make in future years for future budgets in public hearings, as it should be. This does not result in any movement of any money out of the Measure E allocation plan for this year. So thank you for your patience with my long-winded explanation. I just want to make sure that was explained. Councilmember Davis?
Actually, Mayor, I was first. I was first, but since before the dinner break.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the order of the blue hands.
Yeah, I raised my hand before the dinner break when no one else had their hands up on this item.
Councilor Esparza, I have no idea. All I'm doing, I'm looking at the list of the blue hands. And the only time I ever vary from that list is usually if someone's already spoken and other people haven't spoken, and I'll go back to somebody who hasn't spoken yet. So, Councilmember Davis.
Mayor, I'm happy to yield to Councilmember Esparza if she feels it very important that she goes first.
Okay, that's fine. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you, Councilmember Davis. Really appreciate that. I did raise my hand because it is important, as it's important to all of us. I know that most of us voted to put this on the ballot, and we all, we endorsed it and put a lot of thought into developing the spending plan back then, and when this was just an idea. I actually wanted to thank the mayor and my colleagues and city staff because we took that leap before March to put this on the ballot, not knowing that COVID would come, not knowing the additional challenges that would come. But we did know that there are always going to be challenges, and that if we did not take this action for Measure E, that those mountains to climb would just be that much more steep. And so I wanted to just mention a few things, and then I have some questions. So one is, I wanted to remind folks that this is the first plan. So this is the first time we have our Measure E dollars and we get to put them to use. And I wanted to remind some folks of some statistics that we have come before us in the past about displacement. And so those statistics are that 40% of all San Jose households are ELI, FELI, or LI. And that 57 of Black residents, 56 of Latino residents in the city of San Jose are low income, but that only 23% of all housing stock in the city is rent stabilized, deed restricted affordable, or naturally occurring affordable. And that San Jose rents have increased nearly 40% since 2011. And I bring that up because there were some stats in the memo about rents decreasing in San Jose since the pandemic. That's citywide. It does not, I have residents, I have affordable, I have naturally occurring affordable housing developments in my district where throughout this pandemic, we have, my office has been approached by many residents who say their rents have been increased by their landlords, usually corporate out-of-town landlords. So these aren't the mom and pops that are part of the community who are hurting. So we have low-income folks in our city who are aren't seeing the relief that other parts of the city are. And I wanted to also remind folks that of residents displaced in Santa Clara County, only 9% were able to stay in their neighborhood, and only 36% were able to remain in their city. And so that's why the allocations to put money towards building affordable housing, and I'd like to thank my colleague, Councilmember Davis, back a year ago, again, before these challenges became even greater, we worked together to increase our percentage towards those that need it most and where our stock is being built the least. And so I wanted to remind folks that this is still the climate in which we are trying to build housing in. And I think while we're facing a lot of challenges, sometimes that gets lost in the discussion because we're being hit from so many things from all sides. And so I had a few questions. I'll start with, I don't know if Lee Wilcox is on the phone. Lee, are you on? Yeah, I see your face somewhere. There you are. Hi,
Yes,
Lee.
I'm here.
So I had a question. There is some funding for homeless prevention, which this council's been talking about for many, many months, actually since the mayor led the moratoria when the orders were initially announced. And so this has been, we've been talking about the cliff for a long time, and we know that preventing homelessness is really important. And so I wanted to ask about the COVID funds, the federal dollars that we've gotten. So given the fact that we do have a new president, yay, and we're able to kind of anticipate a different administration, Congress is still, who knows, but a new administration that has indicated a willingness to support states and local governments in responding to COVID. And so have we gotten, I know it's just happened, but we have a COVID team that the president-elect stood up. Have we gotten any feedback around how we're able to use our funds, specifically the 6.25% with FEMA, which we are holding on to because we don't know if we need to put that into the pot, or the deadline for the coronavirus relief funds?
That's a great question, council member. We have not gotten to that level of detail with the president-elect and the transition team. Most of the information that we've heard on possible new stimulus dollars has really been speculative at this point through our legislative advocacy firm, and kind of what we're picking up from the media and some of the other large cities who have heard. And I do think there is a willingness, and I just would caveat, I think the dollar amount and the timing of a new stimulus dollar is really dependent on January 5th and what happens in Georgia. And so we have heard the president-elect talked about stimulus, the economy, infrastructure, as well as climate dollars. And it's what we're hearing out of DC thus far has been that the president-elect would like to work with Congress and the Senate to do all of that at one time. Meaning that, January 21st or 22nd, we probably wouldn't have new dollars in the door right away, that we're really looking at later on in February or March. So that's the only thing that we've heard thus far out of the new administration.
So can we ask our lobbyist to start asking about the extension of the deadline, where we've been working really hard under December 31st deadline, and my feeling is that if we are able to to get an extension of that deadline, that we can look at our funding a little bit differently, particularly before the March kind of time frame where new funds would come in. And then have we asked our lobbyists to pursue the 6.25 with FEMA, that issue as well, so that we can get a decision from them once the transition is made in DC?
Yeah, so we have asked our lobbyist as well as Whit O'Brien On the 6.25 issue, I would imagine part of the transition team would be a team focused not only around COVID-19, but also the FEMA issue and funding, because this is so complicated. So in all likelihood, we've been told that we'll probably get the answer to that before January 20th. Would be really helpful. I know next week we'll be coming to you with part of the Coronavirus Relief Fund strategy, kind of what we're calling a bridging strategy of using the existing funding we have between now and the next stimulus package. And that does really weigh heavily on the existing savings, or what we haven't spent thus far, moving that through reimbursing ourselves, because we do have general fund cost of all of us that have been responding to it. And then that does free up some general fund money to continue to support our at-risk populations through the EOC in January and February. But we're not necessarily counting on a huge bulk of savings that we actually need to spend by the end of the year. We're really looking at that more of as a bridge funding opportunity.
Thank you. And I think that's really important, because I think at some point we will need to add to the homeless prevention funds. And I'm just trying to get a sense of timeline of how we could supplement what is being recommended here, because I do think it's a tremendous need. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. And then I had some questions, and I'm not sure who to ask this to, but it does take a 2/3 majority of the council to amend our spending plan for Measure E. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then, how did we make a determination that bridge employment Measure E funds could not be used to employ homeless residents to clean trash, and that's why we did not allocate funding towards that? How did we make that determination?
Sure. So this is Jackie again from the Housing Department. I think, we overstated in the memo. I don't think the words we actually used to describe Measure E, the use of these funds as not an eligible source, is actually overstated. Clearly, Measure E could be used for all kinds of activities. It's not limited because they are general fund dollars. What we should have said, and we didn't state it clearly, was that we determined that the San Jose Bridge employment was an employment program and not a housing program, and therefore didn't fit under the allocation plan. And I think, given that this was a new process that came under the budget memo from the mayor, and even though it was under Measure E, we didn't interpret that specifically as something that had to be funded out of Measure E. And so therefore the budget office did a budget memo, and we which again, we didn't do very clearly, and lessons learned through this process, that we had found general funds that could actually fund the program per the direction of the city council. So I think our concern had been that the administration had not clearly flagged this particular program early on. And again, new process. We didn't have a way to do that, didn't think through it, that this was outside of the allocation plan. Because it's not a housing program, it is an employment program. Only 1/3 of the people received housing, and it's not clear they received the housing because it was even a consistent part of the overall program.
Okay. And because I do feel like we have to give Measure E and the spending plan a chance, because it's brand new. We had a vision when we set out to create this. And so, so I'm trying to understand, so Mayor, in your memo, because we just got it today. So in your memo in item 3, so I know you talked to us at the beginning, but can you talk about, in terms of reassess eligibility funds, So that would come back to council directly, or how do you envision that
It would come back
coming back to us?
through the budget process. Obviously, the budget allocation for this year is set, and I'm not looking to disrupt the allocation to Measure E funding. But the idea is that when this comes back to us in February, March, in the budget process, that time staff would take a closer look. And hopefully by that time, we'll have more data about the effectiveness of the program. I mean, Jackie's right, about a third of the residents got permanently housed, but for the dollar, that may actually be more cost effective than some of the other solutions we're putting out there in terms of the likelihood of somebody getting housed for every dollar we're spending. So I think we do need to view this as both an employment and a housing program if it's getting people housed.
So, and Jackie, so in what comes back to us in February or March, when we do have that level of detail, will we know if folks are getting housed through permanent supportive housing, if they're getting housed through Section 8 voucher? Will we have that level of detail so that we can make that connection with their participation in an unemployment program into how they were housed and the kind of runway they have or might need to stay permanently housed? Will that level of detail be included?
So the housing department doesn't oversee this contract. So we would have to go in and ensure that, again, the everything we do is all contained within a system when we're trying to address homelessness. So we would want to make sure that everyone who is served shows up in HMIS so we can actually track the progress. And it is more than just getting housed. One of the things that we do in our housing programs is track to see, of the number of people housed, how many people actually remained in their housing. And so that would be another question that we would ask, because that's a benchmark for all of our programs, including our shelter programs, our outreach programs. Everything that we do, we benchmark against, did you get housed? And then are you able to maintain that housing? And I do think, there could be the approach that we strengthen the housing part. If it's, if you want it to be a housing program, then we need to include housing elements to the program that ensure that people are successful. And, again, this contract is not running through the housing department, but we can certainly take a look at it and see how we could help facilitate it to be a stronger program that's really addressing housing needs as well. That it's a byproduct of it is a different, is somewhat different in my view.
And so, so that's it. So who oversees this contract?
So it's currently being seen by Beautify San Jose.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, thank you.
The trash program.
Yeah, thank you. So, and I have heard, so, I mean, I'll just be blunt. I mean, one of these nonprofits has been very controversial about some of their work and meeting contracts and their business practices. I will say that we have asked this question in the past, and their work with San Jose Beautify has met goals. People are paid. So I wanted to address that issue. So my preference is that they be included in HMIS, that we make that connection between housing and the type of housing, and that the city council can review that data, and that we could also look at other employment programs that serve the homeless and newly housed population, that be included in the report that comes back to council, and that come back preferably before budget. So the mayor would like to include it in budget. I don't have it. How long would that take to do so that the council could review it prior to the budget process?
So again, I just have to check to better understand what data they are collecting. But I do want to note, just because you mentioned it, we just recently released an RFP to connect an employment program with housing. So I do think that it makes sense when you're doing an employment program that you try to strengthen it with housing, because people need both, especially if you're trying to get them off the streets. So we just did a competitive RFP for that, and I think we're going to try to bring back the results before the end of the year. And again, it matches jobs with housing to get people off the streets as quickly as possible. So we would not have had the results of that program because it'll just be starting up January 1st. But it will be another way for us to benchmark kind of how different employment programs are working.
And if we could get this data, pull the data, and make the kind of benchmarks that, so Mayor, just to be blunt, so if we're able to get that data to come to all of us, and if so are you tied to Measure E being the funding source? Could there be another funding source to accomplish the same goal that we can use based on housing and homelessness data?
Not at all. The purpose of the memo was simply to ensure we would not be confined. That is, that we would have the option as a council. I didn't want the final word to be thou shalt not, when it seems to me that's not what the law says.
Okay. Okay. No, I look, I agree with you. I think employment is needed for, to be self-sustaining, right? To be self-sufficient. So, and that should be on the menu. It's just came to us kind of last minute. And so I'm trying to make sense of it.
And I want to apologize for that.
To do it in a way that doesn't get around the 2/3 majority, right? That we still, that this comes back to the full council, that we're able to discuss it as a group in public and make all the balancing and judgments that we need to as a council. Okay, and when would that come to us, Jackie? Prior to budget?
Yes, if we can try to schedule something so we can get it out around the same time, so the spring.
Okay. My request be that this come prior to budget so that, again, we have time to kind of figure that out. And we're not cutting, well, the mayor, just to be clear, was not proposing cutting anything out of this year. It's for next year's plan. But that way we're staying with the plan, the first plan for this first year of Measure E spending. Okay. So I think that covers my question. So I'd like to then make a motion to approve the staff memo to include Councilmember Arenas's memo that includes within the homeless prevention funding that is proposed in the staff plan to allocate some money for DV and sexual assault, which I believe is already part of our overall plans, but that we do set that aside. And that includes the mayor's memo with the acknowledgement that this data come back to the full council before budget. So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you again, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
Thank you. Rachel, I know we chatted about this a little bit yesterday, but I wanted to have this discussion out in the open, and it touches on some points that Councilmember Esparza made. I am very concerned about the backlog of rent and the backlog of mortgages that exist in our low-income community. And can you talk about a little bit about what we have budgeted for rent relief outside of this 2.7 million for homelessness prevention in other funds?
Yes. So the over the course of the past couple of months, we've actually provided $25 million in rent relief. This has come from a variety of sources. Some of it has been from our CARES money. Some of it has been from our existing funding sources, such as CDBG and sources like that we have typically used for a variety of purposes, but we have repurposed and prioritized rent relief. And so that has been a huge move. And we really, we really feel like it's been a significant investment in our community. Another priority that we've made with all of that funding is that it is being paid directly to landlords, so that the tenants receive the benefit of that and the stabilizing effect for their housing. But our landlords also receive the income, which helps just our overall economy and provides stability to them as well.
Right. Thank you. And do we know the extent of the backlog that exists in the city for either for rental or for mortgages for low income people?
So I'll just touch on mortgages quickly first. So I was able to pull some data related to more foreclosure information in our county. And what's really interesting is actually the level of foreclosures has significantly declined through it's very clear that in March all the way till today, there's just been a much lower rate of foreclosure. This is very likely due to the fact that the CARES Act itself did not allow foreclosures to move forward with any federally backed loans. Right. And so, and that is going to extend through the end of December. So you can definitely see something happened in the data. And as we look forward, obviously, like the rest of these deadlines, that provision will be lifted at the end of December. And so it's definitely something we want to watch. But what we have learned from other experiences in the past as well is that people who are falling behind on their mortgages do have a couple of choices. Number one, they can look into forbearance. And forbearance is something that is being made available to people who have been impacted by COVID, and definitely something that people are looking into. And then the other option is that they, if they are in a real difficult situation, they could also sell their home and be able to kind of get out of that financial situation. That may not be the best answer for everyone, but it is also an option, in our single family housing market continues to be strong in San Jose. And so, so those would be some choices that they would be able to do. But I'm glad that you brought it up. It's something that we want to continue to monitor, and definitely see through December, as some of these provisions change, how that impacts our overall community.
And yeah, I just wanted to jump in to say it's not just the housing department that's monitoring this. It's really also the EOC, the recovery team, the economic recovery team. We're all working together to try to better understand this rental housing cliff that we understand will be coming. So they're working on a survey now that they're going to be pushing out to our most impacted zip codes, and there will be questions regarding housing and housing stabilities to help us get a better idea. We certainly haven't heard this large outcry, at least from our, our affordable housing developers we know, and some of the lower income properties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then just to add to that, we also have just been reaching out to our some of our landlords just in the community that we have relationships with, and we've been talking to them. And what they have told us is that they really have seen there was a from March till August was really difficult. Since August, they've seen rent trickling in and in general coming back in some way. But they also mentioned that there are definitely some residents and tenants that are behind, but many times they tend to be the same as the ones who were behind before the pandemic. So that, there might have been some challenges heading into it that have just been difficult to overcome through the situation as well. So that's also some information we've been able to gather just through conversation. And I think it is we know this is a challenging question, and it is one that we all share. And we just want you to know that we are working on trying to get ahead of the situation as we move forward into the coming months.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I just want to comment that I think I understand that people with mortgages have a few more options, as you mentioned. I do worry about the fact that the previous financial crisis in the 2008-2010 timeframe, wealth evaporated disproportionately for people of color, and I'm worried about that happening again if we have people who, as you said, one option is to sell your home, but we know that is a way to, it basically breaks kind of the generational wealth transfer, right? So I am worried about that, and that's something that I hope that we can keep an eye on. And I just keep thinking, Councilmember Esparza and I pushed so hard for the 45% for ELI, and I want to keep that, and I feel very strongly that the allocations that we have are the right allocations. But I also want just to point out that I hope that you will come back to us in January or February if it's not looking like we're going to get the kind of relief that we are hoping for from the federal government or the state. And frankly, I don't think it's going to come from the state. It would have to come from the feds. And if we have to have a very difficult discussion about reallocating, that you would bring that to us in time for us to go through the process that you've outlined on page 7 about how we choose our Measure E spending priorities. I don't want, the thing that I'm worried about is we do have this huge need, as we all know, and Councilmember Esparza, you did a great job talking about all of the data about how much we need that ELI housing in the long term. What I worry about is having a large number of people added to the ranks of our homelessness, our homeless population, because we didn't make an allocation change in time to forestall a wave of evictions that I hope is not coming, but that I fear is coming. So I just want to, I don't know if we need to put it into the motion. You guys, I know, Rachel, we had a long conversation about this yesterday, and you're worried about the same thing I'm worried about. So I just want to encourage you to, sound the alarm as soon as you need to. And if it's not looking good in January, as we know, the makeup of Congress is not completely settled yet, of the Senate is not completely settled and won't be for a while. If it's not looking good, or if we're running out of time for that 60-day window that we need to change our allocation, that you would just come to us and we would have that discussion. And I think we can put in place a spending priority sort of contingency, where if this happens, then we do X. If that happens, then we do Y. I just like to put that out there, and I just wanted to have that discussion publicly with my colleagues, because it is something that I know we all are worried about, and that this is really only one area, the one area where we could make changes without impacting our staffing, which is the other thing that I'm worried about in terms of the budget going forward.
So just hearing your comments and remembering that we need 60 days, we probably would want to come back then in December, right? Because you would need December, have us come back in January, because January is when the eviction moratoriums begin to peel off. It's also, if we timed it so the second action came at the time where you as a council could make additional decisions, because there were limitations under the state law and what you could do until January. I think that is the timing we would want to hit. And I think the third thing that we would be cognizant of, frankly, is capacity. I have to say that we really pushed all of the nonprofits to try to get the money out.
Yeah.
And of course, we were not as flexible, so I'm going to take responsibility for that. You know, we asked that the landlords get paid directly and that we get confirmation in writing that landlords weren't going to evict people, because we had heard about stories where other programs had actually paid money and the tenants still got evicted because they didn't pay the late fee. And so we wanted to ensure that where we made that investment, that tenants were actually protected. So it came with additional strings, which made it more difficult. And so we would want to come back with capacity as well, because I don't think, you know, we would take all of it because it couldn't get out soon enough. So I think those are the things we would be thinking about.
I totally understood. And the only reason I was saying, you know, January, February was because we do have that 25 million and not all of it is CARES money. So not all of it has to be spent by the end of December. And you will know better than I would whether, you know, kind of how fast that money is running out. So if you feel like December is necessary, by all means. But if we have this other source of funding that we still, you know, have at the end of December, and you want to kind of push it out farther, that's okay too. You guys know your business better than I do. I just wanted to try to have, you know, as seamless as possible. What we don't want is for that 25 million to run out and have nothing, and then have 60 days where we have to go through this other process. So
okay, I think I get what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Also this other money. So we can work with our partners to find out how much money they'll have and how far that carries them out. I would say though, yeah, that we would still, as a department, want to come back the timing, at least for the first action of anything, to give you an update when the state moratorium gets lifted and you all have an opportunity to take an action. So I think that, like, should at least be the first trigger for us to come back and at least let you know where we're at.
That would be great. Thank you. I really appreciate it. We don't have large sums of money ever, and it's always a hard choice. And this is definitely one of those where, you know, I read the memo on Friday and kind of agonized over it on the weekend and talked to Rachel on Monday, and I'm still, you know, I don't want to say let's reallocate it. I don't even want to advocate for that, because we do need that permanent housing, and we all know how great that need is at the ELI level. But I also don't want thousands more people on the streets, and that's particularly acute this week as it's a much chillier week. So it's got me thinking about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank the voters for actually passing Measure E in March, allowing us to put this transfer tax in effect that affects properties of 2 million, properties that are sold of 2 million or over. So that's a point of sale. It's not, everyone isn't taxed on it. You're only taxed on it if you're actually selling your property and it's worth 2 million or more. So I want to ask Jim later about those funds, but I share Councilmember Davis's concern about rent. We have, in January, renters are to pay 25% of the arrearages. That's due by January 31st. Evictions can begin in January. Foreclosures can begin in January too. They're both actually tied to each other. If the landlord is a small mom and pop and they depend on the rent from the tenant to make their mortgage payments. And yes, forbearance is an option, and selling their property is an option. But as Councilmember Davis said, owning real estate is one way to build wealth from generation to generation that many generations have lost out, or many people of color have lost out over the years, and we cannot assist in that. We need to help preserve home ownership for those who are in their homes as long as possible. I'm concerned, the budget allocation is how it has to be unless we change it, and we have the process which you laid out in your memo, Jackie and Rachel, and I'd actually like to see us begin the process to reallocate to consider rents, because what I fear is going to happen is we have an unhoused population already, but because renters aren't going to be able to pay their rent in January, then in 60 days we're increasing, or we're not preventing, let me put it that way, we're not preventing individuals who are renters from becoming homeless. And we need to do everything that we can to keep those people in houses who are currently in houses. I'm not saying that we shouldn't build housing for the unhoused, or ELA, or affordable housing, or very low income. We should do that, but that all takes time. We don't have much time for those people who are renting, who aren't going to be able to pay their rent in January, February time. That requires, so I'd like to see two strategies, and one is from a state and federal level that we work legislatively to change the laws to allow, I don't know about the forgiveness of the 25%, but to figure out a way to benefit tenants and help them a little bit. Also to help small mom and pop landlords, because foreclosure isn't good for anyone. We saw that in the last recession, how many people lost their homes and then resulted in moving into housing with other folks, or moved out of the area, or ended up homeless because of the huge housing crisis we had before. Totally different reasons. A lot of people have a lot more equity now than they had then, but selling sometimes isn't an option if they don't have any equity in their house. They don't have anything to sell and pull out. Sure, they can sell the asset, but it doesn't mean their mortgage is less than the value of their property. So I really think we need to escalate rental assistance. And I know, Rachel, you'd mentioned we've already put aside 25 million, and that has been distributed. And I know from Destination Home that that's not enough, that we actually don't know how big it is. If landlords, if the 25% is due, now I don't think they can be evicted for the 25% that is due. And that's 25% of the arrearages, the unpaid rent is required to be paid. I don't think they can be evicted, but they can go to court over it and demand that it be paid. So it's another lien or another responsibility that a tenant has to pay that then cannot pay. They still have to pay their rent. And if they're not working, and under COVID, if they're working in a restaurant and we're moving and it's cold and we're moving back inside restaurants, which means we're not as employing as many people in restaurants or service industries as possible, people are going to be suffering. We just don't know the scope. So I cannot emphasize what Councilman Davis said enough. She's slightly more articulate than I was, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, that we really need to work to help our renters, because we don't want to add any more people to the unhoused population. We can't handle them as on the unhoused population. So let's keep them where they are. So I don't know, you've heard this loud and clear, Jackie, so I'll leave it up to you what that means, but I'd love to see the beginning of the process for us to reassess this. I'm also very mindful that the voters approved a spending plan or a philosophy of how we were going to use these funds, and that there is a process that we have to put in place. Otherwise, because I don't want to lose the voters' trust in our dollars and how we want to allocate them. So I'm mindful to that. I do have questions about the actual funds themselves and the accuracy of the numbers. When this budget was put into place was budget season, $30 million, and it was estimated that we would be able to generate transfer tax of $30 million. But Jim, there aren't, while property values are holding, sales are not brisk. There aren't a lot of properties on the market. What is on the market is selling, unless it's a townhome, and then they're kind of sitting around a little bit. So can you tell me how comfortable you are with the $30 million that we've allocated in our budget?
So far I think we're okay, although there's not a lot of good data to really know on. So through, so July activity through October, we're at 7.7 million. So if you kind of straight line that, we're pretty close to the 30. I think that, the interesting thing about this tax is, obviously it's going to be cyclical month to month, depending on what's happening in the seasonal real estate market. So you would expect some higher returns later in the spring, like we do with our regular CMC tax. It's also very sensitive to high dollar value properties. And so if we get a significant number of those could really push up the figures. So, we arrived at $30 million, first time we've had experience with this revenue source. So we're really just kind of still building up what our model is. But, we made that $30 million when we knew we were going to have, a tough time in the real estate market. I think at that time we thought we would have, a tough time on the price side too. So the price side, like you said, Councilmember, has been holding. It's the number of transactions and the type of the transaction. So I think so far with the data that we know, I think we're feeling okay with it, but we would really need more data to give you a better answer.
Okay, thank you. And I actually made the assumption that would be your answer. It's because it's difficult to know. How do you predict what the real estate market is? We had the fires that took listings off the market or sales off the market for about a month because people weren't showing houses during the time when it was so toxic outside. Then, so every little thing that comes along does affect real estate. The good news is that there are buyers out there who are very anxious to buy, but they're not in the 2 million range. They're in the $1.25 million range. And as I said, there's a lot of townhomes, but they're under $1 million in if you're talking San Jose, and that's the market we're talking about. So, and I've been watching this really closely because as you all know, that's my part of my business, but I go to these real estate marketing meetings just to get a feel from realtors what's going on in the market and asking them how's it going. And I know this seasonally, the market is slowing down and it should pick up again in spring. That's also seasonal. So I hope your 30 million is close. How do we actually, what's the mechanics of collecting the transfer tax? Is it paid through, it's collected at through the title company? Do they just automatically issue a check to us? How does that work? I'm just trying to understand the mechanics.
I'm not an expert of the mechanics, but yeah, I think it does run through the title process and it gets remitted to us by the county. So okay. the county is the body that collects the tax.
Right, with the recording.
Yeah.
So it's we've actually collected $7 million through October, you said.
It's actually, yes, 7.7 million. Sorry, it's July. It's activity based on July, August, and September.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, I think with those numbers, we should be on track for the 30 million then, because the springtime is when the market picks up and people are really anxious to buy. They do have down payments, those who can afford the mortgage payments, they do have the 20% down they need, but they're not buying $2 million homes. So that's one thing we need to be concerned about. So that's one thing I'll be watching. I am very supportive of the funding plan. I am really, really concerned about adding any more families to the unhoused population because of lack of rent payment. So anything we can do to help them out, and if that means we have to change the funding allocations, down the line through the process, then let's move forward through the process in tangent with thinking that we might get some relief at the federal government, but not depending on the relief from the federal government. So in other words, if we get the relief, we don't need the assistance. But if we don't get the relief, we ought to be ready to go to help tenants out. Does that make sense? I think we're all on the same page with that. With that, I think that's the end of my questions. Councilmember Davis and our Esparza covered everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rennes?
Thank you. And I apologize, I'm not going to put my video. I've already been kicked out of this meeting like 8 times since we started. So please bear with me in case I freeze. First of all, I just want to say thank you to the housing staff, Rachel and Jackie. You've just made so much progress, even though these are very difficult times. We've asked so much of you, and you've really stepped up and you've delivered, not only in this spending plan, but just the previous items that we've been discussing, and just the really great work that your department has been producing, I think shows in how San Jose is going to recover. And I think that if the quality of work that you've done so far, I think of course we've got some work to do, but I have faith that we will be able to support as many people as we can. And so thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. I know behind the scenes must just be a tremendous amount of hours going into any one of these items. So I wanted to, besides just being grateful to you as a housing department, I also wanted to start off by also thanking Councilmember Esparza for including my memo in your motion. I'm not going to go on and on about this because I know that you all have heard me, how the World Health Organization has reports already produced from previous pandemics that put young girls and women at risk for physical abuse, and public health asking us to isolate just creates a perfect environment for abuse. And so I appreciate, Jackie, that you've been really supportive of this arena, that you've helped make some possibilities for I'm not going to say just women, because I think Jaime Alvarado pointed out that it's true, it's not just exclusive to women, although the World Health Organization does point out mostly young girls and women, but certainly it could be of any sex. It just puts they're just more vulnerable. Folks who have been abused in an intimate relationship are in a more vulnerable situation. And so you've done some great work already. And so I'm grateful that you'll be able to move forward with this, Jackie. And I think this falls into some of the work that you're already doing. So, and I see you nodding, so I'm going to leave that one alone. And move on to really about some of the profile, or some of the need to be integrated into the employment programming. And so I'm grateful, Councilmember Esparza, you spoke about, how to maybe revise a contract or have it a stronger in terms of not only verbiage, but in alignment with maybe elements of housing that could make that employment program more effective. And when I think about the typical unhoused community, when we look outside, we typically see adult males, and we don't really see women out there, or children, but we know that there's a large community, mothers who are struggling with couch surfing. And so it's inadequate housing. It's not might be completely unhoused. And so I wanted to know and dig into this piece a little bit more, because I agree that there should be a path forward for employment. for our community so that they can get to stable housing. But I like to make sure that the programs that we have are conducive not only just to the unhoused community that we typically see out in our downtown or many, just throughout a whole city at this point. And so I'm going to say that typically it's men. So how are we going to make sure that these programs also target women? And do we have information so far in terms of the gender that have been employed in any of these programs that have been discussed?
We do collect demographic information. I don't have that in front of me right now, but it is something we can get back, and we'll be sure to include it when we return.
That would be great. When I first started, and I think the cohort that came in when I first started, we had a number of housing forums that PACT had invited us to, and stakeholders. And I've got to tell you that the largest amount, and this is of course nothing respectable by Councilmember Davis's standards in terms of data, but this is just visually and sharing of information and stories. But most of the profiles in any of those forums were single women who had children, and they mostly were couch surfing and had left a relationship. And so I want to make sure that our program is also going to incorporate the women who are struggling out there to also provide a path forward for them, some possibilities for them. So that would be my my contribution to that part of the conversation. I think everything else really has been already said by my colleagues. Some thoughtful comments from those who've spoken before me, and the passion to really prevent homelessness for those folks who are just holding on by a thread. And so, of course, I like to see more investment in our homeless prevention. But I know that there's a level of capacity in our nonprofits and the agencies out there that can handle certain type of funding. And so I hope that we can find also an opportunity for them to build capacity, so that when we say, hey, we have some funding available to you, they don't say, ooh, we decline. And we did hear that, Jackie, remember? We heard that from one of the nonprofits for domestic violence. And it just breaks my heart to know that they can't accept some of our money because it is just too tough to comply with requirements and all of the barrage that comes in with federal funding. So I want to make sure, and I know that you do, keep all of those elements in mind as we're moving forward, and we're thinking about some of these most vulnerable populations that maybe don't have documentation, that can't show the kind of income paperwork that others easily can submit. And so I would really appreciate an opportunity to have a path forward for some of those vulnerable populations to be folded into everything that we do, whether it's the employment programs, whether it's the homeless prevention programs, or anything else that comes up that can also fold them into this mix. So those are my comments. I don't have any questions, but I know, Jackie, that you've been very thoughtful about how to make this as easy as possible for our families. You've gone as far as making some of the rents directly to the landlords. Well, sometimes, federal, I think that's a requirement, but definitely for some of the childcare pieces, keeping this income out of the hands of our families can help also prevent them from having this look like income for those families, and then they no longer qualify for the other programs that they rely on. So I know that there's a lot of consideration on your part. Please continue with that consideration so that we can make the most of all of these resources, and then I'd love to see what that demographic is for women in the employment programs. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And just to confirm, I do believe we have the staff recommendation, and then both memos are now moved, correct?
I believe so.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. And I don't think anybody could have predicted that we would be passing Measure E and at the same time be immediately tested on our spending plan with it. I think we knew all along clearly that the dollars were able to legally general fund dollars to be spent really anywhere, but put in place the spending plan to focus on development of affordable housing and keeping people from homelessness. But certainly none of us would have expected this pandemic, although we had experienced a prior recession, and I think we knew that those could come. And I think that we're just being tested rather early on our ability to stick to the spending plan that we put in place to focus on what we know is the dire need of developing affordable housing and again keeping people out of homelessness. And so I appreciate the hard work by staff, the comments from my colleagues in line with I think where my thoughts are. I definitely don't necessarily want to jump the gun on doing any sort of reallocation of these funds, but certainly I think it's always up for discussion. It's in the spending plan as far as an opportunity. Certainly a little bit more hurdles to go through, but it's there for a reason. At the same time, I think we certainly want to try to see out, specifically with Measure E dollars, we want to see out the plan before we start reallocating, unless there is a real valid need to do so. I think in regards to the mayor's memo specifically, and as was brought up on some of the eligibility of dollars for the bridge employment program, the one line that struck me was in regards to programs where employment is linked to an individual's ability to remain housed, and initially just kind of thought, well, that's likely all of us that have our employment could especially living here in the Bay Area is pretty specific to keeping us housed. But I think obviously that's not the intent. There is just any old employment. The idea would be individuals like in the bridge employment program that were either experiencing or currently experiencing homelessness. For me, I think I would want to just ensure, in order to stick to the Measure E spending guidelines, that we do actually tie it to housing. And I don't believe the bridge, San Jose Bridge Employment Program is specifically tied to or collects the data. And maybe Mayor, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it collects the data either as being tied to someone's housing. And I think that would be just important for me. So as we look back at that data, and I know, Mayor, you pointed out there that it doesn't necessarily have to be the Bridge Employment Program, but you stated or similar programs. And I do think it is worthwhile to look at programs that may not just be housing in and of themselves, but also may have an employment component to it. And something like this, as you point out, that our community members respond positively to. So that would be my interest as that comes back, and I'll be happy to support the motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate all my colleagues' comments, and appreciate the justifiable anxiety about the eviction cliff that we may be facing if we're not able to get a package out of Washington, D.C. to assist local communities. I know it's obvious to everyone, but sometimes it's worth saying what's obvious. So let me just say it. There's not nearly enough money in Measure E or any other funding source to be able to satisfy the depth of need, even a significant fraction of the depth of need in our community. And so I say this because, I mean, obviously, you know, we committed 25 million already, I think, to rent relief in some way or another and eviction prevention. And as in addition, there's another $20 million, mostly private sector sources, some little money from the county as well. That was raised through Silicon Valley Strong, and enormous amount of heavy lifting done by a lot of people to get there, and only a very, very, very small fraction of the need. And so I say that because I think that we may have to think differently about this should we have to reach this horrible potential decision, which is how we would reallocate money. I believe there's an opportunity. I'd like to believe there's an opportunity to be a little more creative about how we could help more people than the number of people we'd be helping simply by cutting checks the way we've been doing it. And I think the reality is, you know, as we look at data from the Urban Institute, it says 45% of all rental households have suffered some significant loss in income through this pandemic. Unemployment in San Jose, you know, in the MSA area is about 7%, but in our city, it's probably quite a bit higher and probably north of 9%. And certainly in communities of concern, certainly in double digits. And so what the picture this paints is that the one thing that we may ironically have in our favor, as bad as the situation is that landlords, were they to evict tenants, do not have a line of people ready to go rent. And it seems to me that may present an opportunity for us in disguise. That is, that perhaps at much smaller increments, we could engage landlords in loan workouts where they would be willing to forgive many months of rent for essentially pennies on the dollar, because they'll be getting something rather than nothing, which is what they get if they evict a family and there's nobody behind them to actually pay rent. So I just want to hesitate before we jump into a solution that says, let's go cut checks the way we've been doing it, because I just don't believe we're going to be able to help enough people that way. And we need to probably be thinking more strategically about how we could have a greater impact. Anyway, I know this is a conversation we will be getting very deeply engaged in the months ahead if we have to. And obviously we all hope we don't have to have that conversation. So let's hope that Congress comes to its senses and we get a bill through. All right, any other comments, questions? All right, let's vote on the motion from Councilmember Esparza.
I did not get the second on the motion.
It was me.
Thank
Deb.
you. Okay, Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Aye.
Diep,
Aye.
Roscoe.
Aye.
Thank you. Davis,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Camus,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Item 8.7 is the approval of the multifamily underwriting guidelines. We do not have a presentation. Is that right, Jackie?
That is, yes, that is correct. We're available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, I shouldn't ask questions in the negative. Okay, learn my lesson. All right, Matt Reed. Matthew, forgive me.
Yes, good evening, Matthew Reed from Silicon Valley at Home, Mayor and Council. I want to start by acknowledging staff's work on this item. I know this has been in the works for a while and it's complicated stuff, and that it's getting the pieces together to issue a new NOFA so that we can get some of the pipeline of new affordable developments moving. We know this has been challenging. I want to note that many of the proposed changes do pose real challenges to affordable developers, and that staff has been working through this process with them. Towards that end, these relationships are important, and I want to note and appreciate that staff has initiated a collaborative, open process for taking on the challenges of the rent burden issue. that's important in this time. It really is a challenge for affordable developers, and there are a lot of moving pieces here. So we really appreciate that. We would recommend that these changes the impact of the changes are somewhat uncertain. And so it would be good to have a review of the new guidelines in the relatively near future. I know these things don't move quickly, to fully assess their impact on affordable housing financing and operations in the city. I think everybody has the same goals, but we need to be conscious of the fact that as we make changes, there may be unintended or sort of foreseeable consequences that are significant. So I appreciate the time, and I really do appreciate staff's work on this.
Thank you, Matthew. Blair Beekman? For 0.7, the multifamily underwriting guidelines.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to kind of, the last item was a lot, and it sounds like what this item can talk about can also address your funding needs that you're worried about at this time. And it wasn't mentioned enough. You considered the need of hoping that federal funding will be coming through. There is some really good work that is going on at the state level with funding ideas and what they're building. And they have been building for the past year now. They were fully expecting there'd be serious problems in 2021. It's just a matter of, I hope you can learn to talk about what's happening at the state level, and perhaps mention, Ash Kalra must be doing some incredible work right now, incredible legwork right now to try to work things out. And I know, like what I mentioned a few times, Alameda County, cities of Berkeley, for instance, they seem to have a really good track on how work is going at the state level, and they've gauged in their communities, pretty well from that process. So, again, look to what Alameda County is doing with the state level of funding for this upcoming year. And you've described a really difficult situation, and good luck to all of us how we learn to talk about it. And thanks for all your work on this issue. And, I will do my own small part to try to consider continual gardening and garnering of good, affordable ideas. How do we just simply talk about what's good and possible at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. The person with the phone number 5140.
Well, I like the truthfulness of what you guys had to say, how you're going to run out of money. It's going to happen, and you're not going to be able to generate any more money if you start listening to people like Gavin Newsom and these other people who want to lock down the economy. I mean, it's just that simple. And then, your guys, your supposed president-elect guy, he wants to shut the country down and make everybody wear a mask. This is getting insane. People were able to open up and do business on a very limited scale and at least enable some kind of tax revenue. I saw a decent economy happening just, not far from where I live, people shopping, going out, doing what they could with these circumstances. But yeah, if you're not going to be able to promise all these people this kind of money. And what about the landlord who needs that money to help somebody in the hospital and their family, or, the corporate landlords I don't really care too much for. Who cares about them? They're owned by some LLC or they're traded on the stock market. That's their own problem. If I'm talking about the small landlord, they can't afford to let people skip rent and do these kind of things. I mean, it is logical that there's nobody in line for these places because everybody's gun shy, doesn't have the money or whatever. But you guys are going to have to open the economy back up and not be such nervous Nellies with these masks and these face shields and gloves. I mean, it's disgusting. You go someplace that the staff look like they're from outer space. It's weird. But yeah, you have to get the economy back up and running. And by the way, you're not going to ticket your way out of this like you guys thought you were with the 300 citations that you gave.
All right, thank you. All right, returning to the council. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Just one question, Rachel, about the float up affordability restrictions. It says the underwriting guidelines will be amended to allow the float up of affordability levels to a maximum of 60% AMI at the discretion of the city council. Provisions will apply to new tenants only. And I'm sorry I didn't ask this yesterday when we spoke. Can you clarify what happens to tenants whose income increases over time? Are they allowed to stay in their apartment?
Yes, that's a great question. So every year there's an annual recertification of all the tenants who live in affordable housing developments, and that's managed by the property management group. So what they do is they gather income information and they review the household income for that tenant and resident. So then what they do is as you can imagine, some incomes go up, some may go down, maybe someone moves out, and there's just change on a regular basis. So the property management group then actually takes a look at all the different units that they have and the restrictions, and they try and see if they can realign them to kind of better match the restrictions with the people and their incomes. And so they may actually move someone from a 30% unit, let's say, into a 50% AMI as their income rises. So they can do that without moving or anything. That's just naturally taken care of by the property management company. But over time, as their income grows, they will not be able to they will remain housed. It will be their choice to move on. But their rent may be increased to match where their income is.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That was my only question, and I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. Rachel or Jackie, I know that you guys have heard some pushback from affordable developers, as we have. I think a lot of concern, particularly about the fee cap, the 10%, and concern that it's not likely to be viable for a lot of folks to do rehab projects with that cap. I know TCAC has a flat fee, which I can understand why you might want to get off that fee, because you want to try to incentivize more investment in a larger rehab project. But how did you arrive at 10%? And, based on the feedback you're getting, does that cause you to have some concern about whether that's the right number, or perhaps we should allow some more flexibility?
Yeah, so what we did is we looked at some recent transactions and we took a look at the amount of rehab that was happening versus the developer fee that was charged for the development. And so we used real projects in order to determine the ratio and what we felt like was a fair amount. What we've also noticed is that there's just a couple things happening in our portfolio at this time. One is that 15 years ago, San Jose was busy creating new affordable housing. And so after 15 years, there's this point in time when there's an opportunity for these refinancings to happen. And so it's very natural for that to happen. And so there's just an uptick in the number of these that we've seen recently. Also, interest rates are really favorable. And so there's just motivation to take a look at options that people have. And so what we want to do is we feel like this is a point in time where we would like to find is to create some incentive for investment in the property as well at this moment. And so that's really what this is doing, is trying to tie the investment into the property to the development fee so that there is some relationship there. And I would just say, yeah, we are, this is new. It's new for us. It's new for our development community. I definitely agree that we want to take a look at this for sure within the next year, reflect and refine it. We don't know if this is the right number, but I think that we will have, over the next coming months, I'm sure we will have plenty of opportunities to work with developers just to see if this is reasonable and And this is really a starting place so that we can come back and evaluate if we think there needs to be changes made.
I guess it would be, I know that, we're all, you can't possibly know everything, right? This is a very dynamic, fluid situation. But, this low interest rate environment, while rates are likely to stay low for a while, I know there's a lot of folks who are concerned about missing the window. Is it possible there could be some kind of check-in with council about the status, sooner than, say, the next year? In other words, in the next 6 months, a way for staff to check in and say, well, we're either seeing refinancings are still going through, or it's been pretty cold out there and maybe we should rethink this 10% cap.
Well, what I would say is probably what we would do, and this is what we currently do. If there were a developer who wanted to make a case, the 10% was clearly insufficient. The difference is now they're going to have to demonstrate to us why it's insufficient instead of just pulling out the cash in order to make a greater profit.
Right.
And if they can indeed do that, we always have, and you see this in our memos, we will clearly state that it does not, that what we're asking you to do, the action we're asking, is inconsistent with our current policies, and therefore you must approve it. It gives us some latitude to be able to, again, have a developer demonstrate the actual need, and we can take that forward on a case-by-case basis. So if a developer is willing to share information and make the case, and we can see it, and it makes sense, we would take an action sooner. You wouldn't even have to wait 6 months. If a developer came in 30 days and said, Jackie, here's why the 15 works and the 10 doesn't.
Right.
So we are asking them to provide us additional information for that greater return.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, with the feedback I was getting, one from a 501c3 and one from a nonprofit. I don't know if they're C3, but they're nonprofit, and one from a for-profit, was that it was particularly challenging with older rehabs. And I'm guessing just because of the higher risk. So you will still have this flexibility, and you will be articulating up front that there's an opportunity to make a pitch if folks are willing to lift the curtain on their numbers.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Aye.
Yep,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Esparza,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Demis,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye. All right, our final event of the evening is item 8.8, the update on the affordable housing siting policy. There is a presentation, and our very exhausted housing staff will be able to go to sleep after this.
Okay. Okay, again, it is Jackie Morales-Brand, and I'm here with Rachel, who's still with me and awake, and Dan Rinsler, who's joining us. He is our consultant on this particular policy. So this is an update on what we've been able to achieve so far. And it was really, we wanted to bring this forward because we wanted to demonstrate we'd actually made some progress on this particular item, which has admittedly a slow start due to COVID-19. So with that, let's go to the first slide. So one of the goals, we have several goals that we're trying to balance through the creation of this new affordable housing siting policy. One is we want to make sure that it's consistent with fair housing laws. And so that will provide some of the box in which we will work in terms of creating this policy. We also understand that there was a point in time when extremely low-income housing was potentially putting a strain in high poverty neighborhoods. And so we want to create a policy that clearly defines what those high poverty areas are and where we need to have additional consideration when we're citing affordable housing. We also know that there are areas that might already be low income, but that they are going through changes in their community. And based on our anti-displacement strategy, we want to be strategic and start placing affordable housing in those areas to ensure that lower income residents can remain. And then lastly, we want to ensure that people who live in affordable housing have an opportunity to live in higher opportunity neighborhoods of choice. And this is especially true for families with children who will have the benefit of being in school districts where there are better performance outcomes. As the daughter of 2 immigrants from South America, my parents came to this country not knowing the language, but one of the things they always did was they always picked the best neighborhoods that they could afford to live in. And while my dad didn't think it was necessary for me to go to college because he thought I should just get married and my husband would take care of me, and my mom did not understand the process well enough to help me get to college, the fact that I was in a very high performing school district completely changed my life because everyone around me went to college. And so it was something that I just realized I had to do and I had to figure it out. And so these opportunities that you can provide someone who may not necessarily be in a family that might support those opportunities for whatever reason, being in those school districts and being in those neighborhoods can be a game changer. Next slide. One of the things that I wanted to clarify, especially after seeing the community presentation that we saw in committee, was being really clear about what types of housing this siting policy is going to apply to. So it will apply to all the affordable housing that we fund, meaning the housing department funds it, because developers will be going through an application process and the affordable housing siting policy will be part of that process. It would also apply in our inclusionary offsite affordable housing development option. So it's not going to apply when a developer is moving forward with a market rate development, and in order to meet his or her inclusionary, he's including a set aside because that by definition is integrating the affordable into the market. So we're not going to apply an additional lens on that tool. And we also are not going to apply this lens when a developer who's building the market rate decides to pull off all of their affordable and they're going to do it adjacent to their parcel. So we would say that that is close enough to the market rate development and we don't need to do additional analysis. However, when the developer is saying, I want to build off-site, we're not going to allow them to move all of their housing, their affordable, in a cluster that's far away from their development if it's in a high opportunity area just to place it into a lower income neighborhood. We would use this new policy to apply to that. It also doesn't apply to group homes, homeless shelters, any affordable housing development that's trying to get its entitlements, because entitlements go through a completely different process and we are not allowed to legislate that process and make decisions based on people's incomes. And so a development could get its entitlements, could get funded by another entity such as Measure A or the county or the state, or could actually go through and not use any affordable housing dollars. And it's still, the project would be able to go forward because there would be no way for the city to apply this policy. So again, I just wanted to clarify that so we were all starting from the same page regarding the limitations of what this policy can and can't do. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
Thank you, Jackie. Can you hear me?
You can.
Great. So Mayor and City Council, thank you for having me. I just want to say that I admire your endurance. This is a very long meeting where you're covering a lot of important matters to the city. So I salute you. So my name is Dan Rinsler. I'm a senior policy analyst from the California Housing Partnership, which is a private nonprofit created in 1988, dedicated to creating and preserving affordable and sustainable homes for Californians with low incomes by providing financial policy solutions to nonprofit and public partners. The Othering and Belonging Institute is our partner on the consultant team, but I will be presenting on behalf of the whole team tonight. As shown on this slide, our organizations are part of the State of California's Fair Housing Task Force, which was convened to create and update the state's opportunity map, a clip of which is shown here, that it uses across multiple affordable housing funding programs to inform its siting policies and incentives related to that goal that Jackie was talking about of increasing access to opportunity-rich neighborhoods for low-income families across the state. Next slide. So our first task for the city was to answer just a fundamental question from city staff, which is how to balance different siting priorities related to affirmatively furthering fair housing, and specifically, how should the city, think about increasing access to opportunity for low-income families, which is a priority for it and for the state, and how should it balance that priority with other siting priorities like preventing displacement of lower income communities of color that are now experiencing gentrification. And so to help answer this question, the city asked us to review academic literature as well as what other cities of comparable size are doing in this area. And the following two slides summarize our findings. What we found is that there are no prescriptive solutions available off the shelf, and that prioritization, of course, depends on local context, but there are some guideposts that the city can use in establishing priorities based on the literature and the analysis that we will be completing in the coming months. So first, for our review of the literature, we found a few themes that we wanted to pull out. First, to Jackie's point earlier, neighborhoods have really profound impacts on life outcomes. This is the idea that zip code is as important in some cases as genetic code, and where you grow up can help explain and predict long-term outcomes for low-income families and for children in particular. So the literature is very clear, for example, that if a low-income child grows up in a neighborhood that has certain characteristics, such as low poverty rates, quality public schools, safe streets, that child is more likely to attend college, climb the economic ladder than a child from a low-income family who grows up in a higher poverty neighborhood. Neighborhoods can also profoundly impact physical and mental health for adults as well as children. So there's experimental research showing that, living in a lower poverty neighborhood can be positively impacting rates of diabetes and major depression for adults that is as successful as the best clinical trials. So the big takeaway is that place matters and neighborhoods matter. The second point is that access to opportunity varies quite a bit by race and income. So studies on where people from different race and ethnic groups live have shown consistently that in general, unsurprisingly, high-income people, people from high-income families are much more likely to live in opportunity-rich neighborhoods. However, race appears to be a larger determining factor than income in some cases. So for example, there was a study of the Bay Area that showed that even high-income Black and Latinx households are much less likely to live in these opportunity-rich neighborhoods than even low-income white and Asian households. So, so race is a very determining factor in who lives where, which we know. In addition, studies have shown that when given the opportunity to move to a wider range of neighborhoods and into opportunity-rich neighborhoods in particular, many low-income families of color across race, ethnicity, immigration status are actually interested in moving. Many, of course, want to remain in their communities, but many want to move. And affordable housing programs typically haven't offered them this choice, which goes to the next point, which is that studies have pretty consistently shown that both nationally and in California as a whole, that affordable housing is typically concentrated in lower resource neighborhoods, higher poverty neighborhoods, and has generally followed existing patterns of racial segregation and concentrated poverty. So in other words, affordable housing investments, while valuable everywhere, have not provided the range of choices that align with the likely location preferences of low-income families of color, nor with the sort of broader policy goal of increasing access to opportunity and reversing patterns of segregation as outlined in the Fair Housing Act. So just to be clear, these are findings that are from broader studies, and we will be assessing patterns in San Jose as part of our scope of work in our effort to develop a siting policy for the city. Last point on this slide, if the goal is to live in a world where people of every income and race and ethnicity have the same opportunities and resources, no matter where they live, you need what is commonly called a both and approach. So specifically, in the short term and on an ongoing basis, use affordable housing developments and land use and zoning changes to make it possible for more low-income people and people of color to live in areas that are already opportunity rich or are in the process of becoming so. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that there is demand for more choices and that this can be a successful approach. But many, of course, would prefer not to move and remain in their existing communities. And you're still faced with this problem of the fact that resources and opportunity are not equal in between neighborhoods. So correcting this imbalance should, as a matter of principle, relate not only to the question of where to site affordable housing, but also where and how to target a broader set of policies of investments beyond housing, like education, social supports and youth services, transportation, employment programs. The city can't do all of this on its own, but this is broadly what would be required to change the landscape of inequality between neighborhoods so that we can reach that ultimate goal of having equal opportunity in every place. Next slide. So our review of 13 cities identified by city staff and our team revealed that actually very few cities have established citing priorities along the lines of what city staff have articulated, where there's an overarching policy that establishes goals or investment rules relating to different location priorities. And so in other words, San Jose is asking questions intended to inform its own citing policy that few, if any, cities have really answered, which is impressive and a good indicator. And so, that said, there are a few cities that we found, Albuquerque, Austin, and Washington, D.C., that have models that may be useful for San Jose to consider. Each appears to be a reflection of local priorities. So Albuquerque very much is prioritizing developing affordable housing in high opportunity areas. Austin is trying to equally balance multiple siting priorities, including transit, high opportunity areas, anti-displacement. Washington, D.C. is seeking to equalize housing affordability across the entire city. So these are potential models, maybe not exactly what San Jose wants to do, but they provide an example of possible approaches. None appear to have sort of established their citing priorities based on the type of analysis that the city of San Jose has asked our team to complete. And we think that completing that analysis will help the city establish priorities that are, evidence-based and tailored to local context. So, big picture, our recommendation is to, moving forward, as we kind of see what the data shows, base citing priorities on some of the broader lessons from the literature. So children from low-income families across racial and ethnic groups have better outcomes in opportunity-rich areas, and there is a need among those groups to move to these areas, but also, use the analysis that we will be completing in subsequent tasks to establish citing priorities based on local context, like, for example, the degree to which the geography of where the city has invested in affordable housing and overlaid on patterns of racial and economic concentration, the geography of opportunity-rich neighborhoods, and so on. Another important input into this will be hearing from voices of community members and kind of the end users of affordable and supportive housing. we think that that will be critical for ensuring that the policy is informed by those with lived experience. Next slide. So just to wrap up my part of the presentation, we have begun putting the pieces together to complete the kind of analysis that I described. So we have gathered and mapped data on the following. So demographic patterns across the city, where people of different incomes and races and ethnicities live, housing challenges such as rent burden and overcrowding and how that is spatially distributed, and also overlaid with where affordable housing is located across the city. So our next step, which is underway, is to help the city develop a framework for defining high opportunity areas, and then to do that assessment of the degree to which existing patterns of where affordable housing is located aligns with those goals of the city to increase access to opportunity in a way that is balanced with those other priorities like preventing displacement. So this work is ongoing, and we look forward to sharing our findings and working with city staff and the council and community members on crafting a siting policy that makes sense for San Jose.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So we'll be working with the consultant team and holding a series of listening sessions with the community over the coming months. What we want to do with this opportunity is to reach out to those who are interested in this issue and also have expressed concerns. And we want to really work with people to understand how we should be thinking about this policy and what framework we need to have as we approach this development of this important policy for our city. Then what we want to do is bring forward the draft policy to our Housing Commission in the spring, and we will be bringing to the full City Council for your consideration the policy in prior to July. So sometime toward the end of the fiscal year, we will be coming back to you with the full policy. And oops, sorry. I just have our last slide. This concludes our presentation. We just want to thank Dan again for joining us tonight, and we are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Rachel. And thanks, Jackie and Dan. Okay, let's go to the public first, and then we'll come back to the council. Carlos Diaz, welcome. This is a public comment on 8.8, the update on affordable housing siting policy. Carlos, your device appears still to be muted, so we're not able to hear you yet until you unmute your device.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you for that great presentation. I think the challenge is going to be to get buy-in from the comfortable higher income established neighborhoods. But I do think that with the proper information, those neighborhoods could see the benefit of a diverse population. As our country grows more and more diverse, our children will need to coexist together in many different forms. So that's definitely the future. So that's important. So I'm a longtime 95116 business owner and resident, and I'm also an active member of Aruba, as well as a BART CWG project a member. And I'm also the director of the Alum Rock Business Network. So on a daily basis, I do see the need and struggle for affordable housing to be placed throughout our city. And with the current national climate, we could see that it's illustrated that we do have a vital need to unify and not segregate our communities. Spreading affordable housing throughout our city is progress towards healing our country and providing an avenue where empathy and understanding becomes commonplace citywide. And it better allows for resources to be more equitably balanced. San Jose can and should be a leader in demonstrating the benefits of unification and not segregate our residents irrespective of their income levels. With this, I want to reiterate that Aruba supports a citywide sitting policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Ray Branson?
Good evening once again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. Ray Branson, Destination Home, on behalf of our organization. We're speaking today to acknowledge the important work that is going forward to develop this affordable housing siting plan and policy that will provide a framework to encourage affordable housing development in many parts of our city. We're particularly supportive of the commitment to apply a racial equity lens to this work that recognizes the profound imbalances in both the need for affordable housing and the lack of access to opportunity-rich neighborhoods. We appreciate that this new affordable housing siting policy is an opportunity to both increase opportunity and expand the choices available to low-income households in San Jose. At the same time, as you all know, anti-affordable housing rhetoric continues to persist through our city. What we can't afford with this policy is for it to become a tool to limit development of affordable housing anywhere. The reality is, throughout the city of San Jose, less than 10% of our entire affordable housing stock is deed restricted. We don't have enough affordable housing anywhere, and we need to do everything we can to help the city continue to reach the laudable housing goal of 10,000 affordable units by 2025. It's been a challenge in this pandemic, and we can't afford to have blockades or barriers put up by any policy. But we know that the city is committed to making this policy into a tool that will create more housing everywhere. And Destination Home, which has funded an affordable housing plan over the past 3 years, financed affordable housing developments for the acquisition and pre-development of sites, and is working on creating even more financing tools to support this type of development going forward, stands ready to support this work in the years ahead. So we're excited and we're happy to partner with you. Thank you for this important work.
Thank you, Ray. I see several members of the community have their names in an order. And so I'm going to try to respect the numerical order you've articulated, which means I'll be calling one person a bit out of order who's further down on the list. I hope everyone will be patient with that. But it appears that there's a presentation slides, I think, that committee members would like to make. So I want to be respectful of their efforts to band together here. So I'll start with Antonina. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Council members, for listening to us. We're a group of residents who support the housing, the siting policy. This is a similar presentation that we said in the past. Jackie alluded to it, and we feel that the support of housing is not being addressed in the siting policy. Next slide, please. So there's a couple objectives we want to accomplish, and the first one is that we want to work with the city to adopt the policy requiring equitable dispersion of affordable and the supportive housing and the related services throughout all 10 city council districts. And second, we want to require the city reviewers and decision makers to consider the density of affordable and supportive housing as part of the review and approval process to prevent overconcentration. Next slide, please. We understand there's a difference between supportive and affordable housing. And we know that the affordable housing is your ELF, BLF, LF housing for families, adults, and seniors. And the supportive housing are the facilities with the wraparound services to address homelessness, mental health issues, addiction, disabilities, and such. We want these two very different types of housing addressed in the siting policy. Next slide, please. This map, it's as of September 2019, shows the concentration of these two types of housing in the city. The green is for the affordable and the red is for the supportive. Next slide, please. This table gives the data behind the map. So more than 50% of the affordable and supportive housing are in District 3, 6, and 7. Next slide, please. As another look is the data shows the supportive housing units, the ones with the special population. And you can see here is that the District 3, 6, and 7 still are at the top of the list. Next slide, and Lance will be talking next. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Antonina. Lance Shoemaker? Welcome, Lance.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Lance.
Okay. So as the consultant and the housing department already noted, affordable housing siting patterns have tended to be following existing patterns of racial segregation and concentrated poverty. Additionally, this is not an issue unique to San Jose. Next slide, please. We found a journal article from 2010 that discussed overconcentration of homeless services and housing, and they noted that an overconcentration of services and facilities and the synergy of problem behaviors can overwhelm the carrying capacity of a neighborhood. And this is what motivated our research and our coming together. Next slide, please. One of the things we did as part of our research was we took the map that you've already seen showing the existing distribution of supportive and affordable housing projects and overlaid it with an income distribution for the city of San Jose. And as you can see, the lower resourced areas tend to be where these kinds of facilities are concentrated, and you don't see so many of these facilities concentrated in higher resourced areas. Next slide, please. To drill down into even more detail, this is a map of my neighborhood. I live in the Hensley Historic District. Within a quarter-mile radius of my house, there are 467 affordable and supportive housing units and beds, obviously within walking distance. For example, I live right by the Heritage Home, which is 21 beds for homeless unwed mothers. Just down the block from me is the Emmanuel House, the Salvation Army facility where they have 78 beds for homeless men. Less than a block away is Villas on the Park, which is the Path Supportive Housing Project. 2 short blocks to my west is the Kelsey Air project that has not been built yet, but has been approved, and it's an affordable housing project. 3 blocks away is Casa de Clara, which provides services to the homeless. You will also see a number of affordable housing complexes in my backyard, basically. And 1 mile away, not on this map, is the second supportive housing project that Path is proposing for 4th and younger. And so what we're trying to do is to get the city to focus on how there's such an overconcentration of these facilities in certain areas, and there's an under concentration in other areas of the city. And so that's why our group came together to work on looking at this issue. And the next slide, the next speaker will be,
I think Cindy Vinton, is that right? Okay, Cindy.
Hello, thank you. Our group has 5 recommendations that closely align with the research findings from the consultants hired to develop a policy for San Jose. Our first recommendation is to encourage economic and racial diversity by building all types of housing from the very low income supportive housing to market rate luxury in all resource areas, because neighborhoods do matter, especially to school-age children. Higher resource areas are missing the ethnic and economic diversity that enriches communities, and lower resource areas are missing out on the economic and social vibrancy that comes with increased economic means. Next slide, please. Our second recommendation is to support communities. This is well aligned to the number 5 research finding of ending place-based disparities. We need to ensure that the mistakes done at Donner Lofts and Villas on the Park are avoided by building in good neighbor policies to identify and mitigate potential problems and empower neighborhood stakeholders and future residents of the housing so that we move from a crisis intervention mode to a cohesive, thriving neighborhood. Next slide, please. Our third recommendation aligns with the 4th research finding that affordable housing patterns have followed existing patterns of racial segregation and concentrated poverty. We need to address the fiscal solvency of lower resourced areas, resulting in lost tax revenue. This means that services and infrastructure funding is lost. The very nature of the clients served in these housing facilities often require greater services and support, and schools become overwhelmed with so many children with special needs. Next slide, and Victoria will be speaking.
Thank you. Victoria Takeda, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Our 4th recommendation is to monitor the cumulative impact of the carrying capacity of a community must never be overwhelmed. Next slide. An example of an existing neighborhood's carrying capacity was given by Lance Shoemaker of the Hensley Historic Neighborhood. Here we find the entire array of supportive and supportive housing the city developed over time, all located in a quarter-mile radius, reaching a saturation point for this neighborhood's carrying capacity. At the time, the city did not monitor the concentration as facilities were proposed and sites approved and developed. With a siting plan policy that develops a form, neighborhoods will not undergo this level of saturation in the future. The city must consider the impact of all facilities in the vicinity of a community when planning any new development. Next slide. Our fifth recommendation is to ensure the allocation of resources. Recently, Governor Newsom, viewing a transitional housing site with Mayor Liccardo, stated the importance of funding support services to guarantee the health and welfare of residences and the community in our effort to house our most vulnerable citizens. To ensure funding, the city must collectively with the county maintain direct and indirect service for the dependents and the surrounding community. These include services that impact our existing community services like police, library, green space, educational, while other services support the residences in areas of physical and mental health and life skills training. The success of these facilities and its residents is dependent upon the constant and continual funding of services, even as budgets fluctuate. The next speaker is Tina.
Thank you, Victoria. Tina Morrow, welcome. Tina, I think your device is muted right now, so we're not able, there you go.
Hi, I am unmuted now.
Yes,
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah.
I have a bonus citing policy goal. It's number 6, which is to change transit assumptions to build citywide. So in order to build supportive housing and also affordable housing, our assumptions need to be changed. It's fine to take advantage of transit corridors and also be mindful that transit corridors should not be a prerequisite to the success of housing. There are many individuals who qualify for affordable or who may need supportive housing that need a car for their livelihood. So it's important to look at both transit-rich areas and areas that may not be as well served by transit. Next slide. And the definition of the term transit corridor, we think that it's really important that everybody's on the same page. It's defined as public transit lines with service running every 15 minutes. This is according to the planning department. And as you can see from the map, the black lines show the transit corridor grid running throughout the city and the 10 districts. Building along the transit corridors should happen throughout the city, but building should not be constrained only to land by transit corridors. District 9 is a really good example of this. They have affordable and a couple of supportive housing. Next slide, please. So in summary, the points that we would like incorporated into the siting policy: encourage diversity, support communities, address fiscal solvency, monitor the cumulative impact to communities, ensure the allocation of resources, change the transit assumptions to build citywide. Next. We believe that homelessness and the housing crisis are citywide issues, and they can be addressed through citywide solutions. Next. These are the sources of our data. Next.
Tina, thanks. I think you just.
And this is about us.
Great.
Okay.
Tina, thank you so much. And thanks to all the members that coordinated that very impressive presentation. Okay, we'll continue now with members of the public. The person with the number ending 5140.
Wow, this really sounds like social engineering gone wild. It's disgusting that you're going to try to socially put people in places that they can't afford, at the same time worrying if there's going to be enough transit for them or not enough transit or whatever. It's really, really weird. Remember the busing that we used to do? Remember that? What a disaster that was for the kids, for the schools, for the teachers. You had buses running all over town, so kids could go to schools and way far away from their home, but they were supposedly better. It was supposed to make the world one again. It did not. This kind of social engineering is sinister. And Dan, you're a dangerous person. And the people who just gave the slide presentation, you guys are also really, really sinister. You know it too. This is a way to drive down property values. It's going to reduce the tax income once the property values go down. When you're going to force this kind of social engineering, you guys should really take a second look at yourself. This is Gramsci gone wild. If anyone who knows who Gramsci is, he was an Italian communist, and this is the kind of stuff that he thought about destroying a society, and that's exactly what you're going to do if you decide to social engineer like this. There's no segregation. People can move to these places if they can afford them. I live in a neighborhood where the real estate values are pretty high, and we have a multiracial, multicultural, multi-religious place. And everybody gets along, but nobody forced them to move here, right? People came from all walks of life because they could afford to do so. And it's a very nice feeling when things evolve that way versus when it's being engineered by a government. You guys should be ashamed.
Thank you. Mr. Beekman?
Hi, thank you. This kind of wraps up just like a real serious day of housing items. So thank you. I've been talking about it for a few weeks now, getting prepared for it, and I'm amazed. I'm just very shallow for this whole process, and it's been quite a learning experience for myself. So thank you. And thank you to everyone's presentations, and I think have improved since the CED meeting a bit. And I hope we can keep up the energy and good thinking, and just be open to ideas that are possible. And I will too. Learning how to speak openly and publicly about it with a limited knowledge. I'm a little embarrassed, but I guess I'm just learning, and I'm going through the experience of learning. And so I'm hopeful, and like I said, I really like the efforts of CASA from a few years ago, and that, to me, that's kind of grown where we're at now, and I hope we can continue those good efforts. And thanks for your work, and I hope we all can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Reed?
Yes, good evening. Thank you all, and thank you for your resilience through this list of items. Expanding housing opportunities and access to areas with opportunities that some have been historically excluded from is both the right thing to do, and it is also the law, since the state of California embraced in 2018 the unrealized potential of the Fair Housing Act of 1968 to
Matthew, we just lost you.
Implementation of this law, which requires that we have policies in place to support proactive integration rather than simply preventing discrimination, will also be central to the housing element update over the next few years. We know that neighborhood resistance to affordable housing is real, and we need to acknowledge the reality that creating opportunity in new places, frankly, in any place, isn't going to happen through policy alone. It is going to take community will and political leadership to make this operational. This is an important body of work. We cannot allow this policy to fall victim to these challenges and slow the development of critical affordable housing, because we also know that affordable housing saves and improves lives. We know that rent burden and tenuous housing and displacement and homelessness also have a profound impact on health and employment and educational outcomes. We can get this right. The need is too great, and the need everywhere is too great. Thank you.
Thank you. Catherine Hedges?
Thank you very much, Mayor Liccardo and the council and the housing department, and many of the speakers, including Matthew Reed. Thanks very much for pointing out that this isn't just some kind of social experiment the city is pulling out of thin air. It's the law. And I think the city is doing a really good job trying to implement it. I also appreciated the presentation by the community members. And something I'd like to say about low-income housing, just because somebody has lower income doesn't mean they're bad people or bad neighbors. Some people with high incomes are bad neighbors. You know, the problem is that some apartment managers don't really care who's in their buildings and what they're doing. And the city needs to hold the management of the affordable housing projects to a high enough standard that they don't permit their tenants to be a nuisance in the neighborhood. And there are plenty of good people who need housing. There are a lot of people who would be bad neighbors who need housing. And if we don't have enough housing, I don't see why managers can't give people a chance. And if they turn out to be poor tenants, well, then they don't get to be tenants, and just try to get better tenants in. And that's why certain projects are a problem in the community. It's the management. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Robert Aguirre?
Yeah, Robert Aguirre here. Yeah, I'd just like to point out, first of all, the first guy that spoke was talking about property values dropping. Larry Stone, the county tax assessor, has on many occasions reported that never in the history of this county, for sure, has any property ever lost value as a result of any affordable housing project being built in any neighborhood. He says, as a matter of fact, property values have actually risen as a result of an affordable housing project being brought in. The other thing is, in the presentation, I noticed that there were 3 districts in particular, District 1, District 8, and District 10, where there are no affordable housing units at all, no supportive nor affordable housing units. And I think it's about time that we spread the wealth, so to speak, and start looking at these different districts and look for areas that would be useful. And as far as being near transportation, I agree, not all people need to have the public transportation available to them, although it's ideal, because one of the things we want to do is reduce our carbon footprint. If we can do that, that would be ideal. But at the same time, we have other people, like, for example, the project that was built down on Monterey and Bernal for unhoused people that are now being housed. Many of those people have walkers or have other kind of disabilities, and there are no ADA accommodations for these people. I've driven by and I've seen people with their walkers trying to go upstairs with their walker, and it's really tragic to see something like that was implemented without any forethought. And I pointed out the same problem with the trailers when they were built. We need to think better and involve people that are going to be using these facilities when we make these decisions. And it's always been my...
Thank you. Danny Garza?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Danny.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and City Manager.
My name is Danny Garza. I am a member of Aruba and president of the Plata Arroyo Neighborhood Association in 95116. I'll attempt to be brief by reading a statement. Any new housing development must serve as an investment in existing communities. It is fundamentally unjust to build housing that only serves the needs of new communities who will move into each council district. Briefly, 95116, my neighbors do not all fit into the county medium income guidelines. Thus, regarding new development, it should and must be a reflection of those that are most needy in San Jose. We must be inclusive in new development according to our lowest San Jose income levels. Otherwise, the county low income levels that do not represent 95116 effectively locks the doors of new responsible affordable housing projects in the city of San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alma Arredondo.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Alma Arredondo. I'm also from Aruba, which is the Alum Rock Urban Village Advocates. I'm a 95116 resident, and I am also a homeowner at Las Mariposas, which is built for low and moderate income first-time home buyers. In order to invest in existing communities, we cannot only use affordability levels that are solely based on county-wide median income standards. For example, in the county, median household income is around $120,000, but in the zip code 95116, the household median income is around $60,000, half the county rate. In 95116, we need housing that is built for the income level of our existing residents. In addition to affordability, we need to focus on eliminating inequality of resources. We need grocery stores, recreation areas, cultural spaces, good schools to make this a resource-rich area, so our residents don't need to leave our area for a better quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I believe these are all the members of the community who came to speak, and I appreciate all the input. I know this is just the start of a longer conversation about deciding affordable housing in our community, and I think the bottom line is we need a lot more of all of it. I really appreciated Ray Bramson's point, which is we can't allow this policy to be an obstacle to building affordable housing in our city. The truth is we need more affordability everywhere. But I am certainly very familiar with the literature, Raj Chetty and others who really demonstrated how enabling particularly children from modest income families to be able to have the opportunity to live in resource-rich areas, particularly with high-performing schools, can make all the difference. I think Jackie's experience is very instructive, and I think one I'm familiar with members of my own family, my mom in particular, and I think it really does make a difference. And I think we absolutely do need to be making investments in those high resource areas to help more of our community get access to those resources. I guess I had a question though about household composition, for lack of a better word. And Dan or Rachel or Jackie, whoever wants to answer this, shouldn't it matter whether there are children or not in the household, or whether we're talking about seniors or working adults when we're thinking about resources? Because I think about the resources that matter the most, and certainly high-performing schools, what we'd all want our children to have access to. Working adults who maybe don't have children, I would think access to transit and access to job-rich areas. And I think about seniors, and it may not be any of those things. It may actually be simply, to counter our displacement that's happening in our community. It may well be in the modest income or low income communities in which they've spent their whole lives because that's where they have relationships and other seniors, and obviously that socialization is so important. And maybe nonprofits who that particularly serve seniors with limited income. So should we be thinking about this in segments based on age and household composition?
Rachel, Jackie, do you want me to take this?
Anybody who wants to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you talked a little bit about what research shows and the importance for sure on families and different household types.
Yep. Yeah. So short answer, yes. And so most of the literature on neighborhood effects, like Raj Chetty's research that you referenced, which is some of the best out there, relates to children. So it's a good point. There's plenty of other research that relates to adults and people of all ages. We've had some pretty detailed conversations with city staff about this topic. And since there's somewhat of an absence of literature on specific populations like supportive housing and senior housing, we're going to be doing our own sort of supplemental outreach to folks who are expert in those areas in order to develop siting criteria that is specific to non-family populations. So that's something that we're working on right now.
Okay, so the study will get to that finer level of detail.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, thank you. And then the last question I had is just around the trade-off. You know, I think we recognize the imperative of making sure there's affordable housing in many of the higher resource communities. But we also know there's a bit of a trade-off in different ways. For example, there's much higher land costs, so we may not be able to build as much housing with the same dollars. We also know that those same communities may be more distant from transit, for example, and so the opportunities for work may be more limited. So how do we consider those trade-offs?
I think that we're gonna wait and see is the short answer.
Yeah.
We're gonna be doing a lot of analysis looking at just how great some of the disparities are in relation to, you know, where affordable housing is located, where low-income people of color live, and where opportunity is located according to the metrics that we developed in partnership with city staff. And so, you know, the degree to which change is needed is still TBD. I mean, the community presentation painted part of the picture, but there's a lot more to come. So I just wanted to preview that. You know, I don't think that this is an exact science. There are different ways to sort of establish goals, and I offered a preview of what some other cities have done, which, you know, struck us as a little bit blunt. And I think that there's a more nuanced approach that the city of San Jose can take. You know, I think outreach to community members to establish the degree to which people want certain kinds of change will also be important. So, you know, there's a lot that goes into citing priorities. And, you know, to your other question about, you know, how important is transit, it can be important, but if there is a safe neighborhood with great schools and other amenities that isn't necessarily right next to transit, and there are low-income families that really want to live there, that's a great reason to build there. So, you know, there's not necessarily a desire to make this policy and the evidence behind it a one-size-fits-all approach. I think there are, you know, different ways to evaluate neighborhoods, and we're going to hopefully provide tools that are rooted in evidence that the city can use.
Thank you.
And the other thing I would add is that, I mean, I think you're right. There's going to be, you know, we can create a siting policy, but there's still going to be limitations to, you know, what the availability of the sites that could be in opportunity rich areas. And so maybe one of the things we do is we are looking at populations to the extent we know there's a certain population type that might benefit from that opportunity, like really good schools. Maybe that's where, if the site becomes available, the priority is to put a family housing site there.
Right.
As a way to respond and to create the opportunity we want to create. So I think there's a lot of more thinking to come on this, but I think it can help to drive some of our decision making about where and what and how and who.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Thanks, Dan. Councilmember Pross?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Jackie, definitely, and your staff. I know I have certainly pressed you on this issue, and definitely hasn't moved as fast as I would have liked. But I do understand the delays, and I do appreciate the diligence and the progress that we are seeing today. I'm certainly excited about the consultant. I do think they'll be able to help us craft the best siting policy specific for San Jose. And I think Dan, you pointed that out in your presentation. I appreciate the work you've done thus far. And thank you to the D3 neighbors, those that put together the slideshow. And so my colleagues have seen this now a couple times through committee. But I do want to thank you for truly considering this item and for continuing to be so engaged as we have discussed this now throughout the years. And I think in not taking what many community members take, which is just an outright opposition position to any affordable housing that may be proposed, and instead really trying to dive in on the issues and be able to see how we can more equitably actually address the issue of affordable housing needs that we have throughout our entire community. And that is not a constant theme that we see. Certainly, when affordable housing is getting proposed, we tend to see either individuals within the community that are opposed to it simply because of its location or its proximity, and not necessarily getting involved any further than that. And my community members know certainly that I have stood by both sort of two positions. Number one, ensuring that we will continue to build affordable housing, including in District 3, because no doubt we absolutely do not have sufficient stock today. But number two, that I will continue to push for more equitable dispersion of new affordable housing, not only throughout San Jose, but also throughout the county and the Bay Area in my regional role on ABAG. And I think, Ray pointed it out well, that we don't want this policy to simply be an obstacle to the development of affordable housing. I know I don't at all. But I think indeed we have to recognize that we can have a too high of a concentration in select areas. And traditionally, those areas tend to be in pre-existing low income or minority areas. And what this policy should do is more equitably allow us to disperse the affordable housing as best as possible. And I say that as best as possible, as Jackie pointed out, that this policy is not going to necessarily allow us to more equitably disperse all forms of affordable housing or all forms of housing as was presented in the slides from our community members, because we're not necessarily supporting that with supporting those with city dollars, and a number of these projects are getting funding from other sources, or even just on their own, privately funded, and we can't necessarily utilize this policy widespread. But no doubt, I think where we can use it, and certainly in city funded projects, I think that is our opportunity to be more conscious and to be able to dive into these siting or the siting of these projects deeper. I think far too often we'll see elected officials that use just one factor to help justify their support or opposition for affordable housing, such as being near public transit, or even worse, things that aren't necessarily even in our local control, things like what's happening in Milpitas, which would be first requiring new schools. I think that we see happen far too often, and that we should be looking at the multitude of the different challenges And I know that that's part of the focus, and I look forward to seeing that come back. I know for myself, specifically growing up in affordable housing in a fourplex of rent control fourplex over in District 1, one of the few areas next to a San Jose Gardens low income apartment complex, and yet just a couple blocks away from single family housing that was with higher income community members. And I had the opportunity to go to Cupertino High School, a high performing, not only school, but also just a school district. And I grew up with, there were 6 of us close friends, and 2 of us grew up in affordable housing, and 2 grew up in unstable home settings, kind of bouncing back and forth from their separate parents or grandparents. And 2 of them grew up in stable homes on the more expensive single family side of the community. And out of the 6 of us, 3 did not graduate high school. 2 dropped out, 1 was in jail, and 3 of us did graduate. Me and the 2 who grew up in the stable single family homes. And I no doubt know that the opportunities that I had being able to be in that environment, albeit in a hardworking immigrant family as I was, and living, fortunately being stable because of rent control and not having to move. But being able to be in a school district like that, I had many more opportunities than I would have had, and that I saw my own family members, cousins have, that grew up in different parts of our city, namely Alviso, where I had a lot of family, where my father grew up, in East San Jose. And so I specifically saw the benefit of these higher resourced neighborhoods and areas, and what that could mean for individuals that would be living in affordable housing, and not to have to be concentrated in specific under-resourced areas of the city. And I think the example that has come most recently to my office is within the Spartan Keys neighborhood. Spartan Keys, just south of 280, and had the very first permanent supportive housing, Second Street Studios. But even before that, has had a number of affordable housing developments. Renaissance Place is not too far from the neighborhood there. And there is a private property owner and developer wanting to develop their property. And they came in to have a discussion with me. And one of the requests from the community there was that if we could get a mix of incomes for the neighborhood, they'd love to see that mixed income. And really just a mixed income of individuals, and not necessarily just a high concentration of supportive or affordable housing. And when I proposed that to developer, or the property owner, they were completely fine with that. Unfortunately, as they've set out to try and develop it, what they're coming back with is the reality that they will not be able to generate the rents for a market rate development that would justify them building that type of development. And they're telling me it's because of what the community there will sustain. And what I am afraid of is that, unfortunately, is that we have sort of now built out a community in a way that is keeping it low income. And it's already a community that is predominantly minorities, predominantly Latino. And if private developers are not going to have the opportunity, and this is an example of where we don't really have much opportunity to dictate what gets developed. This private property owner, if they're funding this project on their own and they wish to do affordable housing, well, they're very well going to be able to go forward and do that. But where we do have an opportunity, when it is our funding getting into a project, that's where I think we have to be truly conscious and avoid creating communities that won't even potentially sustain the investment of even a mixed income type of development, thus creating these perpetual low income and under resourced communities. And so I think that's, for me, where I really hope that this siting policy helps us to more equitably disperse the affordable housing, not again to be any more of an obstacle, but to be able to help us get even more affordable housing built and to help it be dispersed throughout the city more equitably. My last question for staff or maybe the consultant, but it would be, community members' presentation listed off some recommendations. Is that something that the consultant or staff are going to be able to look at and then respond to, at least respond to the community members, to be able to give an indication of whether or not those are recommendations that will be explored, or if they can't, then why, or what that might look like?
Yeah, this is Jackie. We'll definitely take note of the recommendations from the community and figure out how they could potentially fit into a new policy. And if it's not something we would recommend, we will definitely respond to on why we did not.
Great, thank you. And with that, then I'll move approval.
Second.
All right, thank you. Forgive me, I want to interrupt the council discussion for just a moment. I was just notified that 2 members of the community apparently had raised their hands, and I wasn't able to call on them. Perhaps bad timing. In any event, thank you for your patience. Perla Ariano?
Hi, my name is Perla Arellano. Thank you for allowing me to go ahead and speak on agenda item 8.8, the update on the affordable housing siting policy. I am here to speak as a member of the Alum Rock Urban Village Advocates, also known as ARUVA, and also as a long-term resident of 95116. Doing a little bit of research and taking into consideration that you guys, the City Council, have a citywide residential anti-displacement strategy. It is clear to me and ARUVA that many council members are aware a massive wave of displacement is about to hit residents, particularly in East San Jose. This displacement appears to be the result of existing policies within the city of San Jose. And I believe you all know this wave of displacement is coming. So I urge you as a resident to please take the necessary action to prevent displacement. Thank you.
Thank you, Perla. Jaime Alvarado?
Good evening, folks, and Mayor, thank you for fitting us back in here at the last minute. Appreciate it. Jaime Alvarado, a lifelong resident of the Mayfair neighborhood, and also a member of the Alum Rock Urban Village Advocates. So the siting policy is super important to us. We're also super aware and frankly afraid of the massive displacement that really has already started out here and will soon overwhelm us. And that displacement will be based on a new modern form of redlining. So the old redlining prevented specific communities from buying homes. This modern form of redlining creates bubbles of new housing that excludes existing residents, in particular, low-income and immigrant families, or people who want to actually purchase their own homes. And so, those little bubbles of new housing are really not going to be available to those of us or most of the people who are living out here already. And frankly, the city's policies, current policies, shepherd in this new redlining. We know that in the Alum Rock Urban Village in the next 3 to 12 months, there's going to be projects that will be approved. And if this new redlining is not addressed, massive displacement on an unprecedented scale will follow those approvals. And last, we're also very aware that we're paying the price for the passage of the form-based zoning rules that exist only in East Side San Jose, and only in this one stretch of East Side even. Beware the negative consequences to low-income people that this policy will have and that the council previously approved. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you. Alex Shore.
Good evening, Council. This is Alex Shore, Executive Director of Catalyze SV. Want to affirm some of the comments made by other advocates tonight, including some of the comments from Allen Rock Urban Village advocates about the importance of equity in spreading out affordable housing throughout our city. And equity also comes up in access to transit. The Obama administration Housing Toolkit points out that affordable housing residents are less likely to use cars. And so the more we can put affordable housing throughout the city of San Jose into different parts of the city where there is transit access, bus, light rail, Caltrain, etc., the more we can have affordable housing that works for our residents and adds to the equity and diversity of our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll return now to the council again. Thank you for the members of the community for your patience. Councilmember Kraska.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank the community members that came and spoke on this item in particular. The presentation that each one of you was able to give as a whole was excellent, and it touched on a lot of the points that I wanted to talk about. But you did a much better job than I could have at this point. So I want to thank you. And I want to make it very brief because I think Councilmember Perales hit on all the points also that I wanted to speak on, which is the opportunities that folks have or that they don't have and suddenly are given if there are housing opportunities for these families in those neighborhoods that are rich with amenities, that have other opportunities. One of the most impressive conversations that I had with someone who said to me, I lived with my mother. She was a single mom, so it qualified us for affordable housing. But what made all of the difference in the world was having that affordable housing complex situated in a neighborhood where I had access to some of the best schools, some of the best amenities, just a rich neighborhood where even though we didn't have much, I was able to enjoy the surrounding area and what it had to offer. And that really stuck with me because it was one of the first conversations that I had coming on board almost 6 years ago, and has always stuck with me. And I think that there is a fine balance. There's a fine balance between those neighborhoods that are being displaced and gentrified, and East San Jose is definitely one of them. And we've worked on this study and policy and have gone through different cities along with Jackie and some of my staff to see what are the best practices, what can we do, how do we push the envelope, how do we be bold, and in making sure that our neighborhoods are not displaced or they're not gentrified, that we don't lose the character or the richness or the history of some neighborhoods. I think sometimes we make false assumptions that all of the affordable housing has to go into that neighborhood. And although I do think that it's incredibly needed, especially right now, as our families are just really struggling on the east side of San Jose, and post-COVID is going to be an eye-opener for everybody. We have to make sure that we disperse our housing units throughout the city, and that we do so in those neighborhoods that have so much to offer, that we don't have to go in there and build up an infrastructure. It's already there. And, it's going to take a lot of political will, because we've heard even some of the callers that call in who think that this is, the devil's work. I don't know exactly how it was phrased, but cynical or whatever. And it's just really, it goes to show you that we just have a lot of work to do. It's going to take a lot of political power. People are afraid of change. People are afraid of their communities being impacted, and they're unaware of the beauty of diversity and the resilience and the strength that comes from having a diverse neighborhood. And so, I just want to ask Jackie, in coming back, to make sure that we are thinking and looking under every rock and beating every bush, and really looking at different sites that are not just, someone said not just corridor transit oriented, because a lot of folks have their own car. My concern when we think of just a transit oriented corridor, I think of a bus line, and a couple of lines that were cut from Almaden Valley through the city of San Jose. And the thinking was, well, there's not enough ridership. It's a very expensive line. And so what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do we put in the transit corridor first, or do we create a population that's going to need it, and then we meet the needs by making sure that they have transportation? And I think it's a little bit of both. And so I don't think that we should be handcuffed or limited because we're looking at very specific type of amenities that in some districts may not exist because they haven't needed them yet. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Jackie, because I thought it was a really great presentation by our community members, and especially item number 6, which dealt directly with transportation and transportation corridors.
Sure. So I think, just following up on the other conversation we just had, which was we need to think more broadly and more boldly about locations, and utilize those opportunities when we get them to say what would best get the benefit out of that. But I agree, we need to look everywhere to see where those possibilities exist. And what we hope to bring back is just, here's a list of additional changes if the council would choose to make that could create more of those opportunities, make them more possible.
Yeah. So I have a question to ask, because I know that in some cases, in some districts, we've seen that some of the school districts are interested in selling off, if not all of their property, but some of their property. They're okay with building something, at the periphery of their real estate. Will you be looking into those kind of possibilities as well?
Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. That's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you, Mayor. Listening, all the times that we've discussed the siting policy, previously known as the dispersion policy, it's gone over a bit of a name change. It's taken on, I think, a particular importance in 2020 during COVID, because the reality is what a lot of community organizations, in particular health organizations, have been saying for years is that the biggest health determinant for a person is their zip code. And we're seeing that now with COVID. And so I just wanted to bring that up because there are very real implications for us as a city in terms of opportunities that we bring to different neighborhoods, and taking an equity approach, and what that really means to neighborhoods. For a lot of neighborhoods in the city, it's really a matter of life and death. And I also wanted to note that for the first time, the Association of Bay Area Governments we've had a number of discussions about RENA goals. For the first time in these discussions, we've incorporated equity, and that has not been part of RENA goals before, and making sure that folks had access to opportunities, and that we as governments looked at it in that kind of equity lens. And I think that our approach certainly aligns with what other governments are doing and trying to bring in that level of equity. And I wanted to point out when Dan brought up the fact that a lot of the research
has been done with children, that's because of school districts, and funding is an issue for a lot of low-income neighborhoods. And I bring this up because it impacts District 7. District 7 is the most imbalanced council district in the city. We have the highest number of ELI households, the least number of market rate households, and we see that imbalance play out in neighborhoods in my district in multiple ways, one of which is how schools are funded. And so I would urge that we don't just look wholesale at families go here and singles go there, that we really try and ensure that there are access to opportunities throughout the city. And I know that different cities are trying to address this issue. Albuquerque, for example, all new construction for affordable housing, including permanent supportive housing, is targeted to high opportunity areas. And I know that Austin and Washington, D.C. are taking different approaches. And as we move forward as a city, we need to look at siting, look at neighborhoods, that we don't just keep the poor poor, that we don't increase segregation in our city. And the other part of it is a year and a half ago, when my colleagues, council members Jimenez, Perales, Carrasco, Arenas, and myself brought forward an idea around equity, that this is what we're talking about tonight is only half of the equation. The other half is to lift up neighborhoods, right? It's to lift them up and invest in neighborhoods in our city, to bring in resources and services to make every neighborhood in our city resource rich. So I just wanted to bring that point home, and I will be supporting the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arenas.
Esparza.
No, Councilmember Arenas is next.
Got it. Punctuation.
Councilmember Arenas.
We do get confused every now and then, Maya. I'm just next. I just happen to be next.
Councilmember Arenas, I'm sorry,
yeah,
your audio is
so-
coming in really rough right now.
So I just wanted to actually can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just coming in a little bit rough.
Hello, can you hear me?
The audio is a little unclear right now.
Okay. Can you hear me any better now?
Now, yeah, much better.
Okay, great. My Wi-Fi signal was off of my device. Thank you for the patience. So I wanted to thank Councilmember Carrasco for bringing up the issue about the schools and some of the properties that the schools own. There's a lot of possibilities there. I know for Evergreen School District, because we've had exodus of families, unfortunately, because of the lack of affordability here, we've had to close 2 schools. One of them being my son's school, and you know, these are neighborhoods that are pretty middle class in the deeper part of Evergreen, and surrounded by, you know, just great neighbors. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity for those properties that remain open, as well as other just land that they haven't been able to develop. And so I think there's some great examples, I think in Cambrian that we've seen before us, and in Campbell, projects that we've approved that involved school districts. And so I just wanted to reiterate that, you know, my district as well, it fares very poorly in some of the presentations that I saw. I don't know if it was, Dan, your presentation in terms of how many affordable housing units we have in District 8, and I think it was 0. And so that is, I think you might be checking, Dan, please fact check me. I would love to not be that ashamed of not having affordable housing. opportunities, but I know that our communities do what they need to do in order to stay in the area, and that is to overcrowd. So you have multiple families living in one single family detached home. And so some of my neighborhoods, even though they might not have multi-housing in that particular area, it almost behaves like these single detached homes almost behave like apartment units, because there's at least 3 to 4 families in one home. And so the issues with overcrowding impact those single detached family homes. So I just wanted to really appreciate that the point that you had made, council member, about making sure that we take a look at the schools and look at that as part of the resources that we have. Ultimately, I'm of course supportive of this policy. It desegregates, or is going to continue to desegregate our communities. And we need to make sure that we bring the voices into the fold. And I was really happy to see that Aruba came in with a lot of different folks who spoke about the impacts in their particular neighborhood. I also grew up in 95116. So I know what they're alluding to, what they're talking about. And I've got to say that they did a really good job in advocating for themselves. They came up with a wonderful presentation. Not all neighborhoods do this. And so I would really love for us to, when you have these listening sessions, and I think it's at the end of in December, right, Jackie? Right, okay. In December, that we really try to get a hold of the hardest to reach populations, because those are the ones that I think are going to give you really the tempo out there. The people who usually come to the table are the ones that are going to have the loudest voices. And so I was really proud that Aruba did a really great job in bringing forth their perspectives. But that's not true for most of our zip codes that have a lot of factors that keep them from participating in meetings like these that go up to 9:30 and all day and waiting for an opportunity to speak. And so I really am going to rely on you and Dan to reach out to those hardest to reach populations so that we can get their perspectives, because it would just be a terrible, terrible thing to go through this process that is intended to desegregate folks, and then we leave them out of the conversation. The same communities that we want to have mixed income communities in. So that is my suggestion. I please let me know how I can help in District 8. And Dan, I don't know if you were looking through the presentation to tell me so I can own up to that.
Yeah, I think that was from the community members presentation, but I do have some data in front of me, and the number of affordable units in District 8 is a number greater than 0. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's not 0.
Wonderful. Well, that makes me feel so much. I am Catholic, and so it makes me feel less full of shame. But the fact is that we're trying to undo policies that have been transpiring for many, many years. And I know I think in 1988 it was who had actually made the recommendation for the Department of Housing to even exist. And so it's come a long way. We're definitely using all the tools that are necessary to keep our families here and keep them stable. And so I look forward to seeing what this looks like. Please let me know how I can be of service to keep so that we can have these hard to reach communities voice their part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Diep?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I was listening to Jackie's introduction to the item and her story about her family and college and all that reminded me of my own experience. My parents were refugees, and I was the first in my family to do a lot of things, often learning through observation or learning for myself and just kind of mimicking what I saw, but never quite getting the full mentoring from beginning to end. When I applied for college, I spent hours, if not days or weeks, as a high school senior looking at graduate programs, because on the college websites, you had the option of applying for undergraduates or graduate degrees. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm about to graduate from high school. I'm looking at graduate degrees, not really understanding what undergraduate meant. And that's just an example of the sort of things that fall through the cracks or people miss. And so I support what we're doing here, and I agree. Mixed income communities are important. Even as a kid, I remember going around town with my parents once a year. She had a coworker. We'd go to his house for Christmas once a year, and he had nicer things than we had. So anyways, but my question really goes to the strength that sometimes communities have when they congregate together. So I'm talking about like ethnic enclaves and such. I understand that when we have mixed income communities and people learn and they are exposed to new ideas, and there's growth to that. I'm asking about the instance where there is a wave of refugees or a certain community that's insular and they are speaking a certain language. I feel sometimes that there is strength in that, because you have people that look like you, speak your language. It helps with childcare. You don't mind letting your kid run around the halls because the people down a few units over, you're all kind of familiar with yourselves. How will this dilute that, or how do we kind of help preserve that strength among communities as we're trying to spread them out throughout the city? And that's to anybody.
Anybody want to jump in on that one?
Dan?
What I'll say is that the one thing that the research is very clear on, affordable housing is very valuable to anybody who can get it, no matter where it is located. So I agree that it would be a bad outcome if the siting policy were to result in blocking affordable housing from being available to the types of communities that you just described. And so I am sure that there will be efforts to make sure that that does not happen.
Okay, that's fine. I had no follow-up. I just think it's something to consider. I fully realize what the council is trying to do. I just want to present one aspect of it that I think is not an ideal, but a positive. When you're new to an area, when you're already low income and you can't afford daycare, and you can't afford nannies and all that. What's helpful sometimes is just having people who you trust or you're familiar with, extended family, and just taking care of each other's kids and feeding each other's kids and letting you go to work the night shift and so on and so forth. And that's not the case for everybody, not the case for every low income community, but it often is for new Americans. And I just want us to be cognizant of that. And that's all. I'll yield.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. All right, are there any other questions or comments? All right, we have a motion then from Councilmember Pross. Let's vote.
Jimenez? Jimenez?
Yes.
Thank you. Perales?
Aye.
Yep.
Aye.
Crosco?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Esparza?
Yes.
Arenas?
Yeah.
Foley?
Aye.
Camus?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Licardo?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the Housing Palooza is now complete. Thank you to our housing team, our very busy, hardworking, and tired housing team. So thank you. You can all go back to sleep. We're not back to sleep. I think you can get sleep now for the first time, probably in a few days. We'll go now to the public. The person with the phone number ending 5140, and we're now speaking on on public comment.
Yeah, Carrasco. It wasn't cynical; it's sinister.
Sir,
what's
you're not going
happening.
to address anyone on the council. You speak to the entire council. All right, Robert E. Gary.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that one of the things that we tend to forget is that there are lost opportunities because what started this valley a long, long time ago were the orchards where people were able to either work in the orchards or in the drying sheds. And then technology came in and we had companies like Intel and a bunch of other electronic companies, and their people were able to work in those factories. The canneries, I forgot about the canneries, that too. A lot of different types of jobs that were available for a lot of different people. And we have a different situation now where we don't have a lot of those kinds of jobs. We don't have those kind of opportunities. And so there's a real struggle for people to be able to make it with whatever they can do. And, you know, I'm certainly grateful that the minimum wage has been raised to 15 and whatever cents per hour, which is really progressive. And I think that's really great that we have decided to do that. But we also don't have the jobs that we need and the kinds of jobs that we need. And part of that is not really the fault of San Jose. It's just that manufacturers have decided to move away, and there's really little to none available. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that caused me to become unhoused. And so when we talk about opportunities like where people go to school and, you know, the different things that are available to them, we also got to remember that there's a lack of jobs in our community, the kinds of jobs that everyday people can be able to work at, like I said, like manufacturing type jobs. And I think even though we're talking about housing and all these other issues, which I think it's a good thing to do, we also need to talk about the kinds of jobs that we bring in here, and not necessarily all high-tech kind of jobs, but jobs that everyone can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Hope I can finish this. I have a little speech. I hope the SBO situation has politely reminded ourselves that in San Jose we take political correctness way too seriously sometimes. In San Jose, we seem to fall into a peculiar habit to somehow say we are more real and culturally hip for applying brakes and then saying no to a language of more creative problem-solving ideas of our society. I feel with the SBO situation, the efforts to want to stifle and end the good work of former IPA Aaron Zisser, and in some of this country's own cries to denounce the very ideas of socialism that is often our better ideas and practices. We can see what happens in our local community democracy process when choosing to be too strongly conservative, and then use this as a cultural hipness against the very good ideas and concepts we are actually trying to build. Meanwhile, it is the ideas of defund, demilitarization, reform, restructuring, ideas of equity and reimagination that has brought us peace instead of rioting to the entire Bay Area this past summer. It can simply offer good examples of how to compromise with an upcoming Biden Democratic Party administration and work towards our important long-term societal goals as local communities and as a country. We have all done much work to prove that a police department still has a place within a community at this time. It is from this place that should allow us to consider the many ideas and choices of Reimagine, and that among other things, it is a term meant to question the future of the prison military industrial complex and its technology, surveillance, and data collection. To simply question these institutions should be ideas of interest to most people. From all of this, I would like to please remind, it seems Anthony Mata has a gentleness and a good spirit that can well address this upcoming work and the many parts of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Beekman. The person with the phone number ending 5140.
All right, can you hear me now? I won't address anybody directly. I just want to let you know that this sort of social engineering is sinister. It's not cynical, it's sinister. And right away, people all of a sudden become worried about their ethnic neighborhoods not being so ethnic if they're going to be forced to move someplace else or have, I guess, the opportunity to do so. But you cannot force this sort of social engineering. It doesn't work. People come together organically. People are able to foster relationships without being forced by the government. Just ask what they tried to do in Chicago many decades ago. Chicago is the most segregated city in the nation and has the politics that the city council loves, which is as left-wing as possible. But everything is segregated there because the people like it that way, right? You live in your own ethnic neighborhood, and that's what makes Chicago so cool. And I know it makes people on the left coast cringe, but I mean, that's where Obama came from, man. I mean, Chicago, that's supposedly his hometown. And take a look, I mean, it's a Democrat machine. You guys will be better off if you didn't have social engineering. You'd be able to have a stronger Democrat machine. And that's what Democrat politics are all about. We're witnessing it right now. You're witnessing it with the city council and the state and the county and the city. It's all Democrats. You guys have the machine. Keep it that way. If you start force social engineering, I think you're going to see your machine fall apart. You know what? Maybe you should do it so the machine falls apart. Because as I listened to this entire city council meeting, you guys are not going to have enough money to do all the things you want to.
Thank you, sir. All right, everybody, good night. This meeting's adjourned.